Welcome back to the Marina Rubicon here in Lanzarote. Well, day one was a big day, strong winds, big waves and lots of attrition on the boats, lots of spinnakers lost and a big night for the shore team. So massive kudos to them working into the night to have the boats ready to go racing today. Going to be more of the same, winds 18, 25 knots at the peak, two fast and furious races. We caught up with Alvaro Marinho, who's 4 times Portuguese Olympian, and he gave us an insight into life with the Alkedo team at the moment and looking ahead to today. Alvaro, then you've been here before?
Yes, I have been here before, mainly coaching the 470s Americans, Stu and Lara, a few years ago, and last winter with the 49ers Junior Spanish. This is an amazing place.
Very different in the winter.
It is a little bit in a way, but a little less wind. Now is the top of it, and yeah, as you can see with the boats, these boats are just amazing, amazing racing.
What was yesterday like for the Alkedo team?
Well, I think we had a pretty good day, solid comeback on the first race after a poor start. And then second one, we were fighting with sled and paprec all the way, which is, I mean, for us, is we enjoying a lot process. And obviously we're trying to do our best each day.
Did you break anything or anyone?
Yeah, we had a pedestral issue on the first race and a mainsail issue as well. So it was good to have a little delay, play in our favor. So we're just trying today to avoid those issues again and just focus on what we can possibly do.
A week where it's really important for the shore team, so a few words for them.
Yeah, I mean, the amazing job. Every day we come here, there's lots of work to do. They're spending the night working the boat and the sails. So I'm very happy that we have a good shore team that is capable to recover the boat for the day after.
In terms of your hopes and aspirations for the season, where do you feel you are?
Well, I mean, we're happy with where we are now. Obviously, as a kind of a new team, we aiming for improving every day, every event, and that's what exactly we are trying to do in every debrief we do with our coach. Is just trying to each day go 1% better in everything we do on board, and it's our goal for the season.
Obviously, Andrea, relatively new to the big conditions. How do you kind of manage that or help optimise his performance, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging. Obviously, after Porto Cervo being so light, we come here and it will be full week, like full on. He's getting used to. We had 4 pretty good training days before, and he's slowly thinking that these 20-25 knots might come in the end a bit, feels like light wind.
Exactly. What's the essence of being consistent in these conditions?
It's crucial. Obviously, as we saw yesterday, there was a lot of people having issues. So main thing is if we get all together inside our team, we're already happy. And obviously we try to connect that with the good calls on the starts and strategy. With Cam doing amazing job on the tactics and communication with all the team, as he has a lot of experience on board, so it's keeping us in a good track and is very positive about all the areas we're trying to improve.
And now what's the weather going to do today? Seems a little bit lighter this morning.
Well, for me it seems a little bit stronger. I don't know how you see it, but I think in the end a little bit lighter, a little bit stronger. In the race area will be pretty much the same, I guess.
So what will we see in terms of wind speed?
Well, between 18 and 25, I guess. So full on again, it will be an amazing day.
And what's the kind of geometry of the racetrack? What's the paying sides, as it were?
Well,
Is it a relatively open racetrack compared to what we're used to in other places?
yeah, a little bit in a way. Obviously, there's always some tricks depending where Maria sets the course. A little bit more west, a little bit more east. There's few tricks that you can play for.
What are they?
Well, I keep it for Alkedo.
But are there any big gains, or is it all fairly subtle?
No, I think big gains are out of making sure that everything is one piece through all the race. I guess that consistency is where every team is trying to achieve to make sure that they can also perform what they're thinking about strategy-wise and tactically-wise.
And as strategist, is your job different in the big wins? What's the subtleties of that?
No, luckily we have been very coordinated, Cam and myself, in the sense of what we want to do and what we want to achieve. And we luckily also we have a very good speed team on the boat. Boat is going fast, so we feel confident on that. We just trying to be out of troubles and making sure that obviously with these conditions it's a very fine line of doing some mistakes as we did yesterday and some other teams, so trying to avoid, minimize those mistakes and just keep the boat well.
Sled are obviously the benchmark at the moment. What have they got? Just give us a few pointers.
Well, I guess the most consistency and consistent team, and obviously an amazing team on board. Everyone on their roles, they're very experienced. I guess they know very well the boats, and they're just trying to do their best as all we are, but I guess they are a step higher.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Andy. Ciao.
Let's look back at the highlights. Welcome to Lanzarote, to the Marina Rubicon. It's the third regatta of the season. We're here for one thing and one thing only, big breeze. We've had it in training. Let's go racing and see what it's really like. So the first race here in Lanzarote, we came here for wind and we're getting over 20 knots on the start line. We're racing in a northerly breeze heading towards the shore, but it's great conditions off the start line. Well, who would have believed that Sled, who started on port in Porto Cervo and really set the world alight, they've done the same thing again. They've come off the start line on port in a left-hand shift and crossed the fleet straight away. Great start from Sled, that gives them the early lead. Paprec start nicely too from the group. Round the top mark, it's Sled leading from Paprec in second, Platoon Aviation in third, No Way back in fourth. Down the first run, it's really close in the end between Sled and Paprec. Paprec jibe off early and are super quick downwind, but through the leeward gate, Sled leading from Paprec. And Platoon Aviation have lost their kite. They're going to have to quickly set another one. That's cost them. And Trinity have lost their kite at the leeward gate. The kite is flying like a flag. It's completely shredded. Through the finish line, then it's a win for Sled. Paprec gets second. Through in third, Alpha Plus just pit Allegra, and No Way back get fifth. Race number 2, the race area's moved a little bit to the east, getting a bit more shelter from the island. Slightly flatter water, but great conditions still. Wind over 20 knots at the start. Off the pin end of the line, it's Provezza having to shoot to get round the pin end mark, but they get a good start. But up the first beat, well, actually, it's Platoon Aviation which reads the shifts slightly better, getting round the top mark with a very, very small lead. Then it's between Sled and Alkedo. Round the top mark, they get the second and third. Paprec round in fourth. Down the first run, it's super close between Paprec and Sled. They're head to head, maximum speed. Paprec slightly quicker through the leeward gate. Paprec leading with the Sled round in second. Alkedo in the mix. Platoon Aviation in contention, but they've lost their kite. That's going to cost them places. And through the finish line, it's a win for Paprec. Sled gets second, tied on points with 3 points each. Day one has been very much minimising mistakes, keeping the material intact, and most importantly, trying not to tear spinnakers. We think we saw 5, 6 or 7 spinnakers torn over the course of the day. So the standings after 2 races in Lanzarote, Paprec leading on 3 points, a second and a first. Second, Sled also on 3 points with a first and a second, so Paprec leading on tiebreak. Third, Alkedo Vitamina on 10 points with a 7 and a 3. Alpha Plus in fourth, 11 points. And Harmler Spears Platoon Aviation also on 11 points in 5th place.
Palm Beach Motor Yachts, we build for those who lead. This comes from our history in competitive ocean racing, where advanced technologies and a spirit to win shape our every advantage on the water. We carry those lessons into every motor yacht that we design and build, using efficient and balanced hulls to deliver performance that feels effortless. Paired with meticulous craftsmanship and engineering, it creates a quiet confidence you can sense the moment you take the helm. Palm Beach Motor Yachts, from ocean racing innovation to cruising perfection.
Briefing yesterday. It's a little bit Groundhog Day already. Conditions looking very similar to yesterday. Strong breezes, 16 to 19 knots was the report from the race course, and it's looking like a muscular day. In the studio, I've got Robbie McCutcheon on the water. Katie Dabson fresh back from LA. Katie, how is it? It's looking quite challenging.
It is wet and windy out here, can confirm. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty epic sailing conditions. It is going to be so much fun on these boats today. But yeah, as you say, it's going to be super hard work. To be honest, I think there's a pretty big sea state. Breeze is pretty up. I think there's going to be plenty of action to come.
Indeed, Robbie, yesterday was all about consistency, not breaking people, not breaking sails, not breaking machinery, and more of the same today then, I think.
Yeah, that's right, Andy. The top two teams we saw from yesterday just didn't have any breakages, like you mentioned, just kept it clean and sailed really, really well. And if yesterday's race is anything to go by, I think we're in for a thriller.
I think we are, but Sled and Paprec just a little bit a step ahead of the rest of the fleet there. Both teams really pushing hard all the way around the course, sailing immaculate races. A second and a first for Paprec. That's the reason they lead, is only on count back by virtue of that race win in race 2, and Sled winning the first race and second in the second race. But a real cluster of boats behind: Alkedo, Vitamina, Alpha Plus, Platoon Aviation, No Way Back, all pushing hard behind. So, Robbie, how do Paprec and Sled approach today?
Yeah, well, I think they take the confidence that they built from yesterday. Obviously, had a very, very strong day. Like we mentioned, I think they're just still going to keep the main focus, keeping the gear intact and making sure their crew work is as best as it can be. But we mentioned their starts and how they sort of sailed around the racetrack, picking off boats. They'll definitely want to keep that the same and go into this next day with the same level of confidence.
I think so, Robbie. But one thing that we learned from speaking with Don Cowie yesterday, Katie, was he was saying that actually they're not sailing at 100%. They're just trying to maintain the high averages and just making sure they've always got a little bit in the bank, a little bit in the tank to ensure that they don't push too hard, Katie. Not getting Katie there. Robbie, maybe you could pick up on that. Say Don was saying that they're not really pushing to 100%. They're at 95, 96, always keeping something in reserve to make sure that they don't break things or get into trouble.
Yeah, that's right. You can definitely push these boats to the absolute limits, but I guess that's more load, that's more force on these boats, and I guess you have more chance of breaking things in that case. So not surprising to hear Don say that, and I guess they sort of just want to, not survival mode per se, but still just, like you mentioned, just keeping a bit in the tank just so they can get around the racetrack cleanly. And
Sled were super impressive. They've had a fairly modest season in terms of their expectations, have not been able to impose themselves the way they wanted. They had a great regatta in the World Championships last year in Cascais, so they've reverted back to that mode, as it were, enjoying the strong breezes. What have they got in particular that you've seen?
Yeah, well, I've been really impressed with sort of how they've approached the starts. I believe, after obviously yesterday's really nice port tack start, they've reverted back to more a traditional start, but still were in the mix and got off the line cleanly, right? We see all these teams come off the line in their lanes, and I think it's really important just to sail clean in clear air and try be as clean as they were around the racetrack. So been very impressed with their crew work.
We certainly saw Paprec starting well from the group, as it were, in both races and getting away early, getting away clean and fast.
Yeah, that's right. They did a really nice job. They were in the bunch sort of at that boat end in both starts, but they seemed to sort of win out of that bunch and have clear air. We mentioned how important it is to sort of start in that front bunch, and then they were able to pick their way off.
But a long night for the shore teams. I think there's quite a lot of damage, small things. Alvaro just saying they had a winch pedestal and they needed repairs and a couple of other hardware issues. So it's been kudos to the shore teams for their work in the evening and overnight.
Yeah, we definitely saw lots of kites being sprawled out as well in the boat park. And
I don't think there was many kites repaired from what we saw. I think most of them were terminally damaged.
Yeah, there was lots of work for the sailmakers, either just chucking it in the bin or trying to fix it, absolutely. But we saw a lot of teams working really, really hard post-racing.
It's looking like it's not quite as breezy as yesterday. Our forecasts 18 to 25, but certainly at the lower end of the wind range just now, but there's still plenty of breeze. What do we think about this racetrack? What did we learn yesterday?
Yeah, we've still got that westerly racetrack, so that top mark's still just under that southwest edge of that island. You can probably expect the same thing. A nice perspective on the water from me yesterday was just that as they get closer up to that shore, it just gets a little bit more shifty and potentially a right shift bend at the top mark.
But there's some teams that really have to kind of step up their game a little bit, and I think yesterday was to a certain extent a little bit of acclimatizing, wasn't it? In sense of Alvaro saying in particular that by the end of the week, you get so used to racing in 20-25 knots that it feels very much like the norm, as it were. It feels almost like the winds are quite light. You just become so attuned to it. But I think there's so many lessons to be learned from yesterday. It's about anticipation. We had great shots of Paprec, particularly on board. Wonderful work with Jerome, our on-board cameraman from the team. You really took us into the team, but it was great to see how they worked and how they were always looking for the next problem or the next potential problem, and somebody would solve that before it happened. But again, they really were ahead of anticipating the next possible problem, dealing with that, and also again, in the end, sailing within their limits.
Yeah, that's right. You mentioned about adapting to the breeze conditions, and as they get further on in this event, then they will be more accustomed to it, and then they sort of iron out a few things. But we also mentioned that they had a few practice days right here in this big breeze as well. So similar conditions, they had a couple days just to practice. But yeah, the further we go on, you can expect these teams to have better crew work and, like you mentioned, more adapted to these conditions.
Hopefully we'll get a little update from the water, but for those of you watching on the tracker, will see that Gladiator have a technical issue at the moment. We're not expecting them to start. The other update this morning was yesterday at this point, Crioula didn't start. They had an injury to their bowman, so they have a replacement bowman, and Guilherme Hanelman, who's a well-known Brazilian professional bowman who's sailed on many of the big maxis on Magic Carpet, I believe, and others. So he's taken over on the sharp end of Crioula, which you can just see there in front of Preveza. Preveza, one of the teams that I was tipping to do well here, but unfortunately they are a little bit underperformed yesterday with an 11th or 12th, so they can certainly bounce back today. Katie, how do you see this course shaping up? We're at 1 minute and 20 seconds before the start.
Yeah, so I think potentially pretty similar to yesterday, quite close into the shore, so I think you might have some shifts up at the top, but I think there's definitely that right-hand wind bend at the top. The right-hand side at the top was pretty strong, so I would be expecting the boats to go out that way. Also, I think the sea state is a little bit flatter up on that top right-hand side. The boats are pretty spread out on the line at the moment, which I think is wise. In this sea state, I think you just kind of need a bit of space on the line. You don't want to be pushing it all too much, but you've got Platoon down here at the bottom, and then you've got the likes of Trinity and Sled and Paprec all up towards the starboard end. So yeah, I think it's shaping up to be kind of similar to yesterday, but yeah, still plenty to do.
Not quite as much breeze, I don't think, Katie, is there?
No, I don't. Well, I think, to be fair, on updates from the Gladiator chase was that they've got kind of 22 to 24 knots at points, so that's it's pretty breeze up. Yeah, plenty of breeze, and sea state as well, and I think it might end up building as well.
We're just coming into the start then. The start gun has gone a little bit of a scrappy looking start from what we can see. Not Crioula are over the start line. Not everybody able to be on the start. Not quite sure what's happened there, but certainly Provezza trying to get across the fleet on port, taking a leaf out of the sled playbook. They're about a boat length ahead of the bows of Paprec and Alkedo. Paprec not quite as well, good off the start line. Platoon Aviation getting away nicely, but Katie, a bit of a scrappy start. It was like some teams weren't quite ready for the gun.
Yeah, really scrappy from some teams actually. I think it is really tricky conditions out here. There is a pretty large sea state, and I think if you're, for example, if you would get stuck head to wind, or if you push the bow up a bit too much, it could be really tricky to kind of re-accelerate the boat and get the boat going again. But the boats that had I think there's actually a boat still on the start line, maybe Teasing Machine. They're actually dropping their jib. So I think they must have had an issue. But yeah, really nice start from Provezza and Platoon as well, coming off that pit end on starboard, tacking and then crossing the whole fleet. Yeah, I think they're doing really well at the moment for me.
A good start from Platoon, Robbie.
Yeah, that's
Provezza
right.
as well, getting away on port. Sled, not too bad at all. In third, early doors. Andrea Lacorte here on the helm of Alkedo. In the mix, but they weren't quite on the gun as they wanted to be. Neither were Paprec, were they, Robbie?
No, that's right. Yeah, it was, like you mentioned, just a bit of a scrappy start. It really left the door open for that Provezza attack and Platoon crossing over as well on that port tack. I'm not sure why they are, but a bit further behind the line, but now they've sort of got this pack just heading out to that left-hand side.
Indeed, but I think Provezza were just hearing me on the commentary saying that they need to pull off some really strong results today, but they've started nicely. It's all about keeping it tight, not making mistakes from there, but Provezza and Platoon Aviation are absolutely launched at the moment. Sled nicely on the Bix. There we can see Johan Richomme on the rail of the Paprec. He was telling us as soon as he came ashore yesterday that they had no connection of his tablet. He did everything by compass and feel, so maybe they need to revert to that at the moment. But Paprec coming off the start line in 8th just now. Regatta leaders Sled in 3rd. So certainly a foundation for Sled to build on, Robbie.
Yeah, that's right. Interesting to see that they started off at that boat end. They were sort of the first one out of that boat bunch to tack off and head out to this right-hand side. We saw yesterday that was sort of the play that people wanted to do. They wanted to get on port tack as soon as they could and sort of drag race out to that top right end. So Sled doing a really nice job at that boat end to execute that.
Platoon Aviation a little bit more conservative in terms of their positioning, having got that start. They're sailing quite high on port just now, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. They came off the line on starboard, but soon tacked over, and yeah, they look nicely hooked up in this left-hander, and all these boats, you start to see them just sort of flop over onto that port tack and sort of drag race out to that right-hand side.
You can certainly see Paprec. They're very much in the traffic in the mix, as are No Way Back, not able to get off the start line as they would really have wanted. But it's a difficult sea state, Robbie, isn't it? Because there's a chop on top of the kind of wave.
Yeah, you see the bows of all the boats there just going up and down and sort of ploughing in. I definitely saw it yesterday. There's just short, sharp waves. It's not nice rollers that you can sort of steer over. They're short, sharp, and a bit confused as well. So it makes it really difficult for all these hulls to sort of punch through the water and really keep that boat speed up.
So, Katie, we're looking at Alkedo and No Way Back out on this left side. They've elected to come out to the left to get some clear air to get a lane, but they've got a lot of work to do in 10th and 11th just now, and just confirming their Gladiator didn't start.
Yeah, so just speaking to Gladiator, they have actually broken their head stay, so I think that's a bit of a major, so they won't be sailing today, and we'll have to see whether they can get that repaired for the rest of the week, which is a massive shame for them. I think they're going to be pretty gutted by that. But then, yeah, the boats out on this left-hand side, No Way Back, all of them coming down to this left-hand side to try and get some clear wind. I do think the sea state is bigger out on this side than on the inside, and I think that will probably impact their speeds a bit. So we'll have to see. I think they're out on this left-hand side. They're maybe going to be relying on, maybe a shift that's going to get them back into it. But yeah, it's a tricky old sea state out here.
It is. We're just watching Alkedo just You just saw the bow drop off a wave and drop a few degrees. Again, just reiterating, that was one of the things we were hearing from the quantum briefing yesterday. It's all about keeping the boat tracking without really pushing too hard, minimising rudder movement and just kind of letting the boat do the work.
Yeah, we also talked about it, Andy, with the acceleration and deceleration after they go over every wave and sort of that bow slaps into the water, then, you know, they have to accelerate again and build back up. So they're just trying to minimize that acceleration to deceleration ratio.
But anyway, that start working for Platoon Aviation, getting out to a 22-metre, 23-metre lead from Preveza. Sled pushing hard in what you might consider to be a relatively comfortable third at the moment. They have a bit of a gap to Trinity and Crioula, but plenty of things still to happen on this. A bit of a disappointing day, I think, for Platoon Aviation yesterday, Robbie, with blowing up at 2 kites. And they were kind of always on the back foot, weren't they?
Yeah, that's right. They were in a good position when it happened, and with that first one that blew up. But I thought they did a really nice job of just getting back in the race, you know, sorting it out, putting another kite up, and then sort of chipping their way back through the fleet from there. But yeah, unfortunately, they had to do it in both the races, and yeah, they were sort of playing catch up all of yesterday.
There was let's just say there was a relatively heated debrief, let's call it, on the platoon when they came back to the dock. But the essence of that was I think Harm was upset that they had gone on the water with the idea of minimising the number of manoeuvres they were going to make, and they ended up doing many more tactical manoeuvres rather than minimising the number of manoeuvres. Every manoeuvre, obviously, is an opportunity for disaster.
Yeah, absolutely it is, and especially in this confused sea state, the short, sharp sea state. And we saw Sled yesterday. They were probably the boat that minimised the most manoeuvres. I saw in one race they did 2 tacks upwind, two jibes downwind, 2 tacks upwind, you know, 2 jibes downwind as well, and you know they won that race. So you mentioned about minimising manoeuvres. The top boats are definitely doing it, and it's definitely an important consideration, especially in these conditions.
Patrick just chipping away. I mean, they seem to have speed, Robbie, don't they?
Yeah, they do. It seems like they're in a really nice mode. They've got a good lane and holding that out on port tack, and they're doing a really good job of, it looks like their bows just sort of punching through those waves just a little bit nicer.
I mean, I keep reiterating to the point of being boring, but Cedric Chateau, I think, one of the really underestimated, undervalued helms in the fleet. Certainly he gets massive kudos from the team, who really appreciate what he adds as helmsman, as a professional helmsman. But he's doing a great job just now, just getting up to the boat just to leeward of them.
Yeah, you can see just there's not as much wake coming off their bow. You can see they're in a nice sort of high groove, which I think is just better suited for these boats over these waves. They're sort of not hitting the waves head on, they're sort of just above them, and you can just see there's not much spray coming from the Patrick bow, and that's really an advantage for this team.
Right. So Patrick up in 4th just now. They're just challenging Alpha Plus. Alpha Plus just to leeward. Alpha Plus had a pretty solid day yesterday, certainly a good first race. Let's have a look at the lineup on the Patrick. There you see Cedric Chateau, Jans' brother. Cedric Chateau's the helm, Loic Perron tactics, Johan Richomme the navigator, Jérôme Naquet and the runners, who's our onboard cameraman, giving these wonderful images, taking us into the heart of the team. Then we've got Jérôme Goya on the grinder, Clément Meister, the other grinder, the champion at the Seagull, being able to replicate the noise of a seagull. Anyway, Pierre Maladon in the pit, and but it's a team that's been together for so long, and really super cohesive team. I think that's one thing that, Robbie, the 2 top teams have in common, is they've been together for so long. They've got a really great team spirit. Interesting to note here that, for example, Sled, now the whole team are cycling every day, including Murray Jones, including Don Cowie, and it's not a fitness thing, it's a team bonding thing. Corresponding with the French team are super tight and always have been. I think that's an outstanding thing about the two top teams at the moment.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear about this sort of team building and sort of just building that team cohesion. You mentioned they've done seasons and seasons together, so there's definitely no lack of experience as a team, but really nice to hear that they've got a few activities outside of sailing, and you definitely hit the nail on the head saying it all ties together, and this is definitely a team sport, all the sum of the parts coming together and making sure that these boats are sailing as best they can. And these two top teams, you mentioned it, definitely have, it seems to be, they definitely have the best team cohesion.
It's all about the team culture. I mean, Sled are big on their kind of banter. It's a very, very international team, obviously, with Kiwis, Italians, Irish, Americans, all the way through the team. So there's a certain international culture, if you like, but the banter is universal, and it seems to work for them. And they are the dominant team at the moment. Platoon Aviation, though, you'd have to be honest, that they're a team which is slightly more individual, if you like. There's little groups within the team, but when they come together on the boat, they do a fantastic job, and they are leading at the moment. Preveza up in second after that great start, and Sled in third. Trinity, a new team. They had a big disaster in that first race yesterday, wasn't it? They were way back, had problems, but they're bouncing back. Yeah, incredible to think that the owner's just been sailing for a couple of years.
Yeah, new team, definitely. All the sailors on board, it's quite Swedish heavy as well. So, all these guys that are just coming in, really trying to learn the boat. It's a brand new boat as well, new build. So there's lots of things to iron out. They've been impressive for me in the previous regattas, coming into a very, dominant fleet and really world-class fleet. So they've done really well, but I'm sure they want to clean up a few things that went wrong yesterday.
For sure, they've got one or two crew changes, I think, on board, and I think that's maybe their philosophy. But obviously, Ed Baird, the linchpin of that team, and so calm, cool, and collected on board, always thinking a few stages ahead. They're kind of mid-fleet at the moment, and but it's certainly something to build on. So, Katie, how's this first leg playing out from your perspective? You're presumably on the left side of the course.
We're out on the left side of the course. I think Platoon has done a really nice job. They kind of got off that start at the pin end. I think pretty much the most pin end both. Tacked across the fleet, banked that game super early, and then they're kind of now just kind of staying in phase with the fleet. They're staying kind of between the fleet and the windward mark, and I think keeping it kind of simple tactically. They're not kind of going out on a limb. They're not trying to do anything too crazy. Just keeping it simple, staying between the fleet and the mark. So for me, they're doing a really nice job. Paprec, as you were talking about earlier, just kind of chipping their way through. I think that's, in these conditions, I think the confidence knowing that they've got really good pace both upwind and downwind. They don't need to do anything crazy. They can just kind of try and chip through the fleet and use their experience and use the edge in these conditions just to chip away, and they don't need to do anything too crazy. Just get some more kind of top 5 results, keep consistent, keep everything keep the boat kind of in one piece, keep everyone in one piece, and I think they should do really well this regatta.
So there we go, Platoon then leading. I mean, it's interesting to watch Victor Marina, who we speak to many times. He's doing the runners. What's the essence of his job today in these conditions, Robbie?
Yeah, well, he's definitely putting the the forestay load as much as they can get. These boats aren't lacking any power, and especially these conditions. So he's really trying to manage that forestay load, but then also, that gives him an opportunity to potentially look outside the boat as well. So he can sort of, give his input if he deems it necessary, and it's just another pair of eyes that, once he's done his job with the runners and sort of getting to their numbers, then he can.
But he's very much the accelerator, isn't he, in terms of the rig control?
Yeah, absolutely. No, especially out of manoeuvres as well. Through these tacks, it's really tough to sort of get to max load, and he's really trying to, wind it on, as they come out of that tack and really get to that number, and it really just puts a lot of tension on that forestay and really helps the trim of the sails.
There we go, Paprec then wriggling through the fleet, really. They were down in kind of 5th and 6th off the start line. They're getting themselves up to 3rd, but it's still going to be fairly close in the pack. Katie, coming round this windward mark, I think we'll see Platoon and Preveza fairly close. What's your feeling about ley lines and the approach Provezza a little bit to the left of Platoon? Platoon potentially Vasco and Jordi Calafat trying to get out to the right, which is a slightly unusual strategy for them. Normally we see them coming in late on port and causing all kinds of havoc, but it's going to be close between Provezza and Platoon, I think, Katie.
Yeah, I think it's going to be super close, and I think the benefit Provezza have being closer to that mark is it's easier to call the ley line, so they can make a decision on where that ley line is. Platoon obviously having to call that ley line early. If they nail it, then they're giving Provezza a pretty tricky job to kind of decide whether to duck them or go inside of them. But I think it's going to be super close. I mean, it's much flatter up here than it is at the bottom of the course, so I think the speeds will be up a little bit. The boats will all be kind of compressing. You've got quite a lot of the fleet coming in on this port ley line, so I think all of them are going to be tacking up. Looks like Platoon is potentially a bit tight on that ley line for me. I don't know if they've got a shift, or they might be kind of dialing down to try and stop Provezza attacking inside them. It could be a tactical play. But yeah, I think for me, Provezza getting a bit of a left shift up towards this windward mark, and I think it's going to be pretty tight with these bunches coming in from the left and coming in from the right. There's going to be a lot of, trying to slot into this ley line.
I think we kind of saw that yesterday, Robbie. The breeze is kind of oscillating at the top mark, and it seems to be very, very shifty, and I think actually in terms of timing, maybe Provezza got it slightly better coming round the top mark in first. At the moment, just ahead of Platoon Aviation. Platoon Aviation just seem a little bit dotty, Robbie, don't they? They're up and down, and in the end, they're going to be a little bit tight on ley line. I think they've got room to weather. They'll have an opportunity to just push the bow up and shoot the mark. But that's, well, maybe will they? They're going to have to bail out, and that's a big move for Platoon Aviation. Just when they didn't want it, very shifty. So they're going to have to wheelbarrow round all the way. That's to Paprek's advantage. But Katie, that's tough. And the same thing happening now for Crioula. It's obvious that Crioula are going to be on the mark, and that's expensive. Meantime, Trinity also having to bail out. Obviously, I think the big headers coming in the gusts, I think, and you just mistime that. So this is really turning out to quite a complicated mark. Also, Vayu having to bail out, not being able to make the mark. I think maybe a little bit of current there as well, Robbie. I'm not sure.
Wow, it's definitely a
You can just see Alkedo there on a big header. Allegri getting round. Not sure whether Allegri got round there without touching the mark, but it was super close. Alkedo getting round now. And there we go then. In the end, Platoon Aviation having to go round, I think, in second to last. But look at that, fantastic images of the race leader, Provezza. Ergun Imri's team, a difficult day yesterday, but they have got the bit between their teeth and are absolutely flying downwind with Platoon Aviation, with Paprec, Les Bleus, the French team who are leading sled down this first run, quick on board then, joining the Paprec team in the middle of the action with the French team. The regatta leaders there, Jean-Luc Petithuguenin there, the, let's say, blonde-haired owner of Paprec. Absolutely loving this downwind. Everybody at the back of the bus, hanging out the back, and it's damage limitation here at the back of the fleet. Platoon Aviation adding insult to injury, having to do, I think, a penalty turn there, Robbie.
Yeah, that's right. They must have got caught up as well, coming around that offset mark, and insult to injury, especially having to do another turn after they had to do one at the top mark. Unfortunately got sort of a bit of a right-hand shift, or a left-hand shift, excuse me, as they were trying to go around and just didn't make it. And they've gone sort of from hero to zero there, Andy.
Exactly, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, but no mistaking who's leading this race. Great images from the front of the Provezza. They say they had a really tough day yesterday, things not going to plan. Certainly not endorsing my ranking as one of the potential favourites. Big Breeze fans. Small change on board. Provezza's bringing in Nick Heiner as a strategist. His first 52 Super Series regatta, but otherwise it's a great team.
Yeah, they really
runners up in 2023. Let's watch this big jibe, Robbie.
Yeah, it looks like they executed that very well, and I was just going to say they executed that top third of that beat really, really well as well. So they just picked the shifts and sort of came in on that lefty that came in, and they were just able to round just in front, and then obviously seeing their second place contenders platoon sort of having to bail out gives them a bit more freedom down this last run.
But Katie, it's looking like the top two boats are well clear. We look at the delta between Paprec, 200 metres behind the leader, and then 140 metres or so back to Sled. Alpha Plus 100 metres. Alkedo Vitamina, give or take 100 metres behind Crioula. 300 metres behind Alkedo Vitamina, no way back, and Crioula really the closest to. But this fleet is really, really well spread out, Katie, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they were all super close at the top, and I think that's what's made the gaps to the front so big. I mean, you had so much carnage at that windward mark. You had so many boats underlaying, and I mean, that was gutting for Paprec. They got, Platoon, they'd got themselves into a really strong position, and then just that mistake at the top was really gutting to watch. But yeah, all the carnage at the top just plays into the hands of Provezza and Paprec, who are able to get away clear, and as the sea state builds down the bottom, they're able to kind of really send it. And I mean, watching these boats going downwind is so epic. Like the water shooting over the bow, like they're basically half submarining at points. I
think your FOMO was even more heightened today being on the water, Katie.
Yeah, literally. I mean, I'm wet enough already that I could literally be on one of these boats. I am soaking wet. I should be in a wetsuit. But yeah, it's a bit more now that I can actually see them in real life.
Indeed. Well, we're pretty much on board with Provezza in terms of our images, and Paprec, you're really able to live the action, feel the adrenaline as the Turkish flag boat surfs downwind towards the leeward mark. The big grinders on board, earning their keep.
Yeah, beautiful shots on the water there. You just see Paprec now on your screen, and yeah, they're really, really flying. You see all the crew in the back edge of the boat, and it's really nice to see them absolutely flying. And it's worth noting Paprec and Sled, our two race leaders after yesterday, being up in that front pack again, doing a really nice job of executing that first beat and this downwind run.
It did. It's kind of reverting to the playbook of yesterday, but also, I mean, it's about boat preparation, Robbie, isn't it? It's about making sure that everything is perfectly prepared, everything is tested. Oh, and just as I said that, well, there you go. Curse off the commentator.
Oh no!
Provezza have lost their kite at just the wrong minute. The halyard gave way, I think, or certainly the top of the sail. So this is a disaster at the meantime for Provezza. They really have to get that kite back in the water, and that's a hard operation, Robbie, isn't it?
Yeah, that would be a tough thing to fix, and they definitely need to pull it in quickly. Fortunately for them, they're not too far away from the gate, but certainly not what you want to happen after having such a good race up until this point.
But in some respects, it's better. In terms of performance, it's better to actually have the kite break into millions of pieces, because then at least you have the option to just get a new kite up there. That's a massive sea anchor, and the French team on Paprec surfing past with no problems. Provezza have to get that sail back on board. Meantime, they're being pursued by Alpha Plus and Sled. Is the door open for the two teams behind? Let's watch this beautiful jibe. Hopefully Paprec can just take their time, Robbie, can't they, in just bringing in the kite. They don't need to kill it. They need to just keep their heads, keep their composure, just take their time to complete the jibe. And that really is an object lesson in just being careful and looking after their sails after having that really adrenaline pumping moment as they got past Provezza. But that was a mechanical failure, I think, for Provezza, wasn't it?
Yeah, it looked to be like that was the case. Sort of that head and that halyard sort of fell into the water, and so yeah, definitely a mechanical failure. But you mentioned about Paprec just going past them there. Now they've got a bit more time and a bit more freedom just to do a conservative jibe, and they absolutely executed that really, really well. And I'm sure they'll take their time just to get this kite down in one piece and round up back upwind.
But at the moment, then it's given them a little bit of a lead. But it is Paprec and Sled, first and second, facsimile of yesterday's results, but a big spread through the fleet. Trinity Racing now 1.5 kilometres behind. Platoon Aviation 1.2 kilometres behind. And let's watch this drop with Paprec. Let's everybody taking up their positions as they come into this drop. Robbie, talk us through it.
Yeah, so you saw just there the string line just went tight, and that's just before they drop, making sure everyone's ready, and there's really some tension on that drop line, and then there's a countdown.
You
usually
can just see the bowman just helping it in. The head was just not coming in down through the hatch. That was a moment that could have rescued any potential problems, but they've got the kite down. They've really given themselves time to set up for the rounding in wide, in tight, but not quite the drop that Sled wanted. They've lost their kite, and that's a big disaster for them. We were just talking about how they'd managed to avoid any problems so far. So the same thing has happened to the regatta, or the joint regatta leaders. Let's say this is all to the advantage, and that is difficult. A big troll of the kite for the Sled team. The circuit leaders just now having to work at maximum capacity to get that kite out of the water. Meantime, Adam Bichel brings the bow round. That will help just a little bit. But all the time, big pressure on the crew, pressure on the boat. And the door opening for Alkedo to get round. Alpha Plus have sailed a great race so far, Robbie, haven't they? They've been poised to take advantage of any problems. And that's exactly what's happened. So Sled dropping, but good work from the French team.
Yeah, that's right, Andy. Alpha Plus just being in the mix, and like you mentioned it, just sort of waiting to bounce on these mistakes from these teams, and they've just kept it really consistent. They've had no issues as I'm aware so far, and they've just been sailing really cleanly, and that second place there is just due to them being in the hunt, and then sort of just pouncing on the opportunities that get given to them.
That's right, Alkedo in a nicely positioned to take advantage, as were Alpha Plus. Alpha Plus, tipped or considered to be light wind experts in terms of their boat and boat setup. It's an older generation boat, but they've got a fantastic team on board in terms of experience, and they're really pushing hard just now. They're up to second just now behind Paprec, and if they could finish on the podium here in Lanzarote would be a great result for the team from Hong Kong.
Yeah, they've definitely been pushing. Sorry, Andy, they've definitely been pushing in this heavy wind condition. We mentioned earlier that they've been training before this week, and they've been really focusing on that boat handling. I was talking to Zach Hurst, one of the trimmers on board, and he was just saying they're really trying to dial in their crew manoeuvres, and it looks like they're paying off for them.
It is indeed, but Alpha Plus then in the mix. Alkedo, Vitamina, the teams in third and fourth on the regatta standings after day one. Sled still look to be a little bit at 6s and 7s, just trying to sort themselves out after that disaster. They've got to give that kite a good check. They've not got everybody on the rail yet. But, that's the kind of punches you have to roll with, be able to deal with that. Trinity Racing have had their problems. There's big Andy Axelson and Ed Baird, I think, on the pumps, getting things sorted out. But look at that lead that Paprec have now.
Yes.
Katie, things going really well for Paprec. I mean, hopefully we're not cursing them, but they really are just seem to be able to second guess the potential problems. Johan Richomme just monitoring how the fleet is going to windward. But maximum motivation for the French team. They came so close to winning the world title in Cascais last year. I ended up being slightly disappointed, but that's motivated them to go push even harder and prepare better.
Yeah, they certainly enjoy these heavy wind conditions, don't they, Andy? And they're definitely showing it now. They're in a really controlling position, just sort of covering the fleet to leeward of them, just in a loose cover, but also they're still sort of out on this left-hand side due to the gate mark that they chose. So it's doing a really nice job of sort of shutting down the race and consolidating on the lead that they have.
So there we go then, Patrick. Let's have a quick look at the projected standings. If positions in this race stayed the same through the finish line, then Patrick would have extended their lead at the top of the table, in fact by 4 points. 4 points versus 8. Alpha Plus on 13, Alkedo Vitamina on 13, and No Way Back on 19. Platoon Aviation dropping to 20, Allegra 21, Vayu 25, Prevetsa 27, Trinity 27, Crioula 31, Teasing Machine 32, and Gladiator, who, as Katie said, have broken their main forestay, and they've got some to try and find a solution to that, but they're certainly not able to race in this race. Whether we'll see them out today, I'm not quite sure. But no mistaking the Blues, the Les Bleus, the French team Paprec, starting to extend the Regatta lead. They were tied with Sled going underwater. There you can see, I think Gladiator there in the background.
Yeah, really dominant performance from this Paprec team, and Sled have also done a nice job to sort of pick themselves up after that bottom mark sort of situation that they had with their kite. So they're just chipping their way back into the fleet. They're still sort of in that top half, which is impressive to see. And yeah, we mentioned it before, Alpha Plus doing a good job of just sort of being in that clean lane and sort of pouncing on the mistakes from the other teams. And we see sort of the distance in between the front pack and the boats at the back of the fleet, and it's you know, really impressive to see that sort of difference in between how these boats are sailing in these conditions, Andy.
Absolutely, but the question from the I think from one of our social media watchers says, which kites will they be using in these conditions, Robbie?
Yeah, well, they're definitely on their smallest kites, their flattest kites that they sort of have, the A4s, if you'd like, and all these teams. You know, there's lots of difference and a bit of variation in between, you know, the sail makers of the kites, but it's all sort of a general same sort of flat sail plan. They don't need the power, they don't need the depth in these windy conditions, so all these teams will have that dialed in.
Certainly looks like the breeze is built, if anything, Katie. Looking at the way Sled are kind of seesawing upwind a little bit. But it's pretty tough conditions, Katie, isn't it? I'm sure you're enjoying your ride on the rib.
It is pretty fresh out here, I won't lie. It's actually quite a relief to get up towards the windward mark where it's a little bit flatter. Can calm down for just a little bit, but yeah, it's pretty top end out here. I mean, this is kind of peak sailing conditions, I reckon, for in terms of like fun and in terms of action. Like this, yeah, this is epic. I mean, all these teams are
this is certainly the top end
here, but
the top end of sport, shall we say, top end of the racing conditions. It's not survival, it's still about competition, being able to deliver in these high stress situations, and Paprec are the masters of that for the moment. But at any time, as we saw with Prevetsa, disaster can strike. But I guess one thing, Robbie, you know, when we know we've got these breezes, we had a situation yesterday where we didn't manage to get the race away on time. Then we had a big delay after the first race as we moved race courses. To a certain extent, it's good that we have these conditions because we have the capacity to be efficient, minimise the time on the water, minimise the delay in between races. Yesterday wasn't quite as efficient as it could have been, but Katie, then this situation, it should be a kind of relatively short day, fingers crossed.
yeah, I think so. I think yesterday, I think there was some issues. I think before the start, I think it was Trinity potentially that kind of ran into the. They had some issues with that, so they had to kind of fix that to be able to then lay the pin end, and I think that's why we had a bit of a delay to start with. And then yeah, the conditions out here are super tricky, but yesterday was a good day to work out where the best courses are, work out the conditions. And to me, I mean, it is pretty windy and pretty wavy, but as you say, like everyone is still very much racing. It's still very competitive. It's still, I mean, yeah, I don't want to jinx it, but yeah, you look at boats like Paprec and they're just still absolutely kind of fully locked in, very much racing. It's not full survival yet. So yeah, I think hopefully today we'll get the next one off pretty quickly, and then yeah, everyone could go in and decompress for a little bit before we get the same again tomorrow.
There we go, Jerome's eye view of life on board Paprec. Just struggling to get his old legs onto the rail a little bit with Jerome, but there's Clément on the rail. You really get a great chance to really integrate into the team, Robbie, don't you? You feel like you're out there getting wet.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome to have these on-board footages. I've never seen something like this personally, but really a pleasure to see how these guys sail the boats, and cool to see everyone on the rail sort of having fun as well with this.
Absolutely, that's the absolute essence of it. They're having a great time, you know. This is what they do for fun. As you know, it's a job for some of these guys. Paprec, in fact, have more amateurs on board, I think, than certainly I think between them and Prevezza, they've got more amateurs. That's to say, sailors who have day jobs. They finish up the regatta and they go back to their work. Obviously, they have the opportunity to get away and do the maximum number of days of racing and sailing and preparation, but they're not professional sailors by any stretch of the imagination. That's evolved slightly for the Paprec, but the breeze has dropped a little bit coming up on this beat. It's not like it's full on all the time. It's the ability to adapt and change gears.
Yeah, that's right, and it goes back to what you mentioned about the runners and the job of the runner person, just making sure that they're, you know, if it is a bit down breeze, then they sort of ease that backstay tension, the runner tension, and it really powers up the boat. So if it is a bit more flat water up the top end of the course, which is what we're expecting, then they can afford to do that and really accelerate to get that bow through these waves.
And we can see that with the Paprec of changing gears, Alpha Plus going well, Prevezza also great. Prevezza in third just now, so they had that problem, but you know, even coming away with a third on the water. There's the projected standings you've seen for a few seconds. Paprec would be 5 points ahead after 3 races if they hold on through the finish line. Sled would go to 9, Alpha Plus on 13, Alkedo, Vitamina 14, and No Way Back on 19, Platoon Aviation on 20. But it's great to see. It's great to see these other teams now starting to come through with a little bit of consistency. Alpha Plus, I'm talking about principally, and Alkedo. No Way Back have got a little bit of work to do. They're not quite up to where they would like to be. I think they're it's kind of just getting the rough edges off, as we said yesterday. With No Way Back have welcomed Lucas Calabrese back as a strategist, so it's only day 2 of that particular lineup in the afterguard. So work in progress on No Way Back. Alkedo very much sailing to plan, as Alvaro told us this morning. But it's pretty breezy out there, pretty choppy, and Paprec leading round are up the beat towards their second windward mark, and then one big finish, one big surf down to the finish line.
Yeah, they've done a really good job of just sort of loose covering the boats behind them. Alpha Plus in particular, they sort of just were bow forward on them on starboard, and then they saw Alpha Plus tack, and they've sort of just gone with them to still keep consolidating up the course. Doesn't look like they've gained or lost anything.
I think consolidation's the word for Sled at the moment. I think they're come out to this left side and just maintain an open lane, trying not to doing too many manoeuvres, knowing that they have speed, and they just need to keep it safe, keep it close downwind. It's much more important to minimise the risk in terms of problems like they had on the approach to the leeward marks, losing that kite overboard.
Yeah, they can definitely lean on their boat handling from yesterday, and especially their sets, because I think that's going to be the next key point in this race, just how these boats sort of exit that offset. Wow, that's a hell of a shot, Andy.
That's Jerome's party trick for the moment, just getting rid of the salt off the lens on the he uses it's actually working with a phone which is chest mounted. He can take it off. It's on Velcro. I think he can take it off, and it's obviously running live all the time. But it's a nice way to do it, you know.
Yeah.
That's how, that's the French way, the French kiss.
Too right. And yeah, we mentioned they're really having fun, and why wouldn't you be? They're out with great lead, and they're sailing in perfect conditions for them as well. So yeah, they're definitely having fun on board, and that's funny to see.
Indeed, and Alpha Plus is solid, fairly solid second. They've got Pravetsa to their left. Sled pushing hard behind Pravetsa. But it's the fleet is very, very spread out just now. Platoon Aviation, that kite loss really cost them. Or sorry, that top mark incident, wasn't it? I mean, that top mark incident, Katie's really shaped the race in many respects, isn't it? It just seemed like the breeze was shifting massively, like 30 degrees in the gusts, Katie, at that top mark, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think actually I would expect to see that at this top mark as well. I think what's really epic about this venue and this race course is that you've basically got two completely different styles of racing at the bottom and the top. At the bottom it's a bit more consistent, but the waves are kind of massive, and then at the top you've got much flatter water, like probably a quarter of the size of the waves at the bottom, maybe even less, but it's a lot gustier and a lot shiftier, and the gusts are kind of like little bullets that are coming down and kind of hitting these boats, and the shifts make the ley lines really hard to call. So you've got two different styles of racing and sailing that you've got to transition halfway up a beat, which is really interesting for the racing. So yeah, I think I would expect to see more boats on that port hand ley line. I think it's lower risk to come in on that port ley line, because especially if it is that shifty, it's easier to call the ley line if you're a bit closer, and you don't want to get stuck out like Platoon was on that last one. I mean, that was such a big mistake. You can't, especially in the big breezes, having to jibe round is such a big and high risk manoeuvre. You don't want to be doing that. So I think, yeah, a lot of the boats are kind of underlay at the moment, coming up towards the ley line, and then they'll probably all do a little hitch up, which I think is pretty sensible with the shifting around at this kind of just off the shore.
Certainly, Patrick, I think Johan Richomme, the navigator, and the afterguard will be super conservative, just getting round this top mark. They have a lead of over 120, 130 metres in real terms. Breeze is slightly lighter. You can see that, Robbie. They've just got the main eased relatively early. They're happy with the ley line coming in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Giving themselves a little bit in the bank, but just knowing what happened to the boats behind them. But that's fairly safe, isn't it? They're giving away a few metres, but they know that they'll charge off downwind. Though in fact there's quite a light patch round the top mark, maximum height.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see on that drone shot there sort of how shifty it was as well. You know, we got the boats Alpha Plus there just in a lefty, you know, in a high mode, but then also the boats sort of coming on starboard were also in a bit of a righty as well. So interesting to see the shifts and different vane pressures we have at this top mark.
But certainly Alpha Plus in control of the boats immediately behind them with Pravetsa and Alkedo. That's our top four boats for just now. And then in the meantime, Sled quite far back and looking like they're going to possibly try to get behind Crioula. I'm not sure what's... Yeah, they're just ducking behind Crioula to get out to the starboard tack. And I think everybody's going right out to a comfortable ley line. We're seeing Crioula. So that was Sled's move, is to try and get out to the right slightly quicker, knowing that Crioula will come back on port just to weather of them.
Yeah, it looks like all these boats.
Sled just wanting to get a little bit of separation to get their tack in. May be able to force Crioula's attack. But round the top mark, Alpha Plus then round in second. Quite a little bit behind Crioula. Sorry, Pravetsa around in third. And I think Crioula getting round just behind, but there we go. Paprec then fully launched, fully loaded. Just streaking away from the second place boat, Alpha Plus. Then we see Crioula in the end just having to keep a little bit of height, and Sled pushing hard behind, coming in with slightly more speed to the top mark. No Way Back have worked hard for sure, just chipping away as always on board, just as they set up for their hoist. Michele Avaldi, their navigator, coming across as he come across the offset leg, setting up for the hoist. Robbie, what are we seeing here?
Yeah, everyone definitely doing their best to sort of hike out to keep that, you know, windward or leeward heel at a minimum as they come around that mark. But it seemed to me like all the boats sort of keeping a lot in the bank as they came into the top mark. Obviously, remember the chaos that they had at that first top mark. It seems like everyone sort of learnt from that and then just gone a little bit above ley line just to be absolutely sure they get round.
So Crioula around in 5th, Sledder 6th, having been the top 2 early in the race. Platoon Aviation round, I think, in 9th.
Yeah, it's not surprising to me that all these boats are sort of just going for the simpler straight set and heading out into the more pressure and potentially a bit more waves out on this right hand side as we look at the 2D here, just that right side of the downwind.
So right side, the west side is out to the open sea, out to the open Atlantic.
Yeah, I think they're just getting a few more waves. I'm sure Katie can tell us more about that, but I'm guessing they're getting a few more waves and a bit more pressure. We see Paprec absolutely flying out to this west-hand side.
So, Katie, we're looking upwind towards the island of Lanzarote, but we're actually quite close to Fuerteventura downwind, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. I mean, you can see Fuerta in the distance. You can see some like kiters out on the shore, which means it's pretty breezy down there if you've got quite a lot of kiters out. Yeah, I mean, it's getting wavier and wavier as we get downwind, breezier and breezier. But yeah, we're kind of up close, as you say, to the shore of Lanzarote, but there really isn't much distance between the two. I mean, I've done a downwinder on a wing between the two, so it can't be that far. But yeah, it's an epic spot to be in.
It is back on board with Paprec then. Really composed, Robbie, aren't they? They just... I mean, one of the things yesterday that I can't remember who was telling me that it's so important is who's calling the breeze into to the boat, how it impacts on the boat, being able to anticipate the gusts and working as a team. That's so important in these conditions in particular.
Yeah, they look really, really smooth, Andy. It doesn't look like they're you know, phased at all about how they're sailing the boat. They're having a lot of fun, and you mentioned about calling the pressure. You just see these people hiking, the crew hiking at the back of the boat there, just on the corner. They're just able to, you know, hike, but then also have a look up the course, upwind, and just sort of call those puffs in. And you see the trimmer's doing a really good job. You see that that foreman there just pulling the vang on as well, playing the vang. It's not only the sails that you need to trim, but there's also a vang that needs to be eased if you're a bit overpowered, but then brought it back on once you're sort of flat, and just to keep the power on. And they're sailing very, very fast downwind now, Andy.
That's right. There's so much power, and obviously in the kite, that's the main motive power that's pulling the boat along. But as soon as you overload the mainsail, that's when the pressure comes on the helm and things start to go wrong. So it's so important to dump the vang. If you get it overpressed, that's the first thing to do. So we're setting up, I think, for the jibe. Let's watch how they get through this. It's about keeping it smooth, waiting for the kite to come round, not overloading the kite too early, in this case, keeping the boat downwind without overstressing the kite, and similarly not overstressing the kite as it fills. So just a fairly conservative, safe jibe there, Robbie, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And interesting to see the process of the jibe. They, you know, prioritise getting that main sheet over first, and that sort of fills and gives them a little bit of power, but then the kite comes on later. It means that the boat doesn't power up all at once. You know, these two big sails just power up at different times, which means it's just a really conservative jibe, and they executed that really, really well. And I'm sure they'll be happy to see the rest of the fleet behind them and execute something like that and just come into the finish line here.
But it's great to see, because, you know, they weren't the best off the start line by some margin, and this has been about steady, consistent strategy and tactics, and great boat speed, great boat handling downwind.
Yeah, they've definitely set the standard of, you know, sailing these boats and the boat handling in these conditions. And it's nice to get this onboard footage as we see it now, just over the shoulder there of of the crew, and they're just, they must be loving this. They must just be soaking in the moment. This is why they're doing the sailing. You mentioned it, that they all have, or not all of them, but a lot of them have day jobs as well. So coming from that into these conditions and this environment would be really, really fun for these guys.
And it's about being able to enjoy the conditions they know they're strong in. They've had some tough moments in the lighter breezes in Puerto Portal. Puerto Portals didn't go as well as they had hoped, but I think like 440, 450 metres is probably as big a lead as we've seen in any race so far this season. It is easier once you get in front, as we've said many times over our broadcast, easier to get out and extend and magnify the lead. But there is the French team on song, as it were. And a nice baptism of fire, if you like, for Johan Richomme. More used to indoor yachting in the Southern Ocean on his Mocha 60 than getting wet and certainly not cold, but blown about in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, quite interesting sentence there. Indoor yachting on the Southern Ocean is a bit of a juxtaposition for sure. But you're absolutely right. In those Mochas, it's dry sailing for those guys.
Anyway, there come the French team through for their second win from 3 starts in these strong conditions here in Lanzarote. And Katie, talk us through this finish. A great race for the Paprec team. I love that. I mean, no disrespect. No disrespect to the Kiwis, who tend to be emotionless coming through the finish line. I love to see the French really celebrating each and every race win, Katie.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you smile, doesn't it, when you're watching the footage or you're looking at the boat and they're all kind of celebrating, and it just kind of, it makes you smile, and it's like, you can kind of really relate to them, because you're kind of like, they're clearly really passionate about it, and it's really great to see that. But a super comfortable lead there. I mean, they're still sailing downwind with the kite up.
They're still celebrating.
Alpha Plus, Yeah, they're still just soaking it all in. They got time.
But it's the adrenaline, isn't it, Robbie? As much as anything, they're absolutely pumped up, and so I think there's the moment of celebration coming through the line, but there's also a moment of release and relief, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right, and you definitely need that adrenaline as you're going, around the race course in these top end conditions. You need to have sort of that energy and to be able to pull off all these manoeuvres and really do your best to work hard. And
so Alpha Plus come through for second. Coming through in third will be Alkedo. Good result for them. They've worked hard and consistently through the race. No big disasters. Same too for Alpha Plus. Provezza, though, will be massively disappointed, having got themselves into the early lead on that first race, then losing the kite when they were leading ahead of Paprec. The door opened for the French team, but fourth is not too bad at all for Provezza, considering their opening day, Robbie.
Yeah, that's right. They did a really good job, obviously, on that first beat, leading around that top mark. They had a bit of an issue going down that run there, just sort of had a mechanical issue dropping the kite in the water, but they've done a really nice job of chipping their way back through the fleet, and you mentioned a fourth is definitely a keeper for this team.
Indeed, anyway, no way back. Actually, they've done quite well, considering getting up. I think they were 7th at the top mark first time up, so making a couple of places. Every point, every place is precious, and in fact beating Sled through the finish line. Crioula coming through now. The Brazilian team had a really difficult day yesterday. There's Eduardo Plus, the owner driver, having a great time on board Crioula in 7th place. But certainly, I say credit to Peter Rima and the No Way Back team getting around in 5th. They were quite deep early on the first leg. I think they were down in 8th at one point. Allegra getting 8th.
Yeah, interesting to see these boats coming down now. They were just sort of caught in that mid-pack the entire race, and they sort of just couldn't break out of it. It seems to be like if you're sort of in that middle pack, it's really hard to just break away. So yeah, it's not surprising to see all these teams really, really close across the line in that middle pack.
I wonder how much sled were kind of slightly consolidating, just trying not to attract any more problems. And just, like I said, minimising manoeuvres. Here we see, in the end, still quite a close finish between Platoon Aviation coming through now just ahead of Trinity bow number 3 and Vayu, I think it is, at the other end of the line. So in the end, Vayu getting 11th. So again, disappointing for Platoon Aviation just when we thought things are going well for them.
Yeah,
they had that problem at the top mark. But Katie, you live and learn from that top mark experience. We saw in the second round that everybody was being much more conservative, and we didn't see that happen again. So a very tough school of hard knocks, as it were. Very tough lessons to be learned in that race, Katie.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the difference between the first lap and the second lap, especially at the Windward. You can really see the teams kind of not wanting to make those same mistakes, especially in the bigger breeze. You can't afford to be repeating those underlays and having to jibe out. Yeah, there's super conservative lay lines on that second upwind, and I think for the next race, especially the first lap where the boats are probably going to be super tight and super close together, I'd expect to see them leaving a little bit more gap to that windward mark. But yeah, I think at the moment teams all just kind of sailing around, getting jibs down, and they're going to be discussing strategy for the next race, discussing how to approach it, and I think it's going to be much of the same, but hopefully less mistakes.
Hopefully, indeed, lessons learned from that race. Let's look at the standings after 3 races here in Lanzarote. Our first time in Lanzarote. Paprec are the masters so far, with the second and 2 firsts for 4 points. They're 5 points now up on Sled, who got that 6th. They were doing so well, lost that kite on the first downwind, so 9 points for them. They're 4 points up on Alpha Plus, who are on 13. Alkedo Vitamina on 13 also. No Way Back 17, 20 for Platoon Aviation. Allegra 21, 26 and 26 for Trinity, and Vayu Prevetsa 27, 32 for Crioula, 34 for Teasing Machine, and Gladiator. I think they started the first race to give themselves an extra point, but they did not start that race 3, so hence they're getting 14 points. Also, I presume Teasing Machine didn't start either. So that's the standings after 3 races here. We're going to take a short break, and the good news is the breeze is in for the day, and we should get race 4. Race 4 should be following fairly soon, but certainly not the obvious need to move course areas like we did yesterday, Robbie.
Yeah, that's right. It looked like these guys had enough breeze and good conditions for that first one, so I wouldn't expect any change, and hopefully we'll get into it as soon as possible.
And what's the essence of what do they need to do right now? It's about debriefing briefly, just taking away the key pointers from that race, the things that went wrong, the things that worked, but also hydrating and getting some food on board.
Yeah, definitely electrolytes and water straight away, just on board into these crews and making sure that they're ready for another race. But
I mean, you have to. It's like a maximum heart rate adrenaline sport, isn't it? You have to rehydrate. You have to get food on board for your energy in the next race.
Yeah, every second counts as well right now for these teams, trying to get that food and water on board, and then also prepare the boat for this next race. So they'll be using every single second they can to make sure that they're ready, and the boat is as well.
Indeed, so we're going to take a little bit of a break, as I say. We'll be back in a few minutes' time for race 4 here. Second race of the day, the breeze is in, and it's going to be more of the same. High adrenaline, high speed sailing here in the 52 Super Series.
At Palm Beach Motor Yachts, we build for those who lead. This comes from our history in competitive ocean racing, where advanced technologies and a spirit to win shape our every advantage on the water. We carry those lessons into every motor yacht that we design and build, using efficient and balanced hulls to deliver performance that feels effortless. Paired with meticulous craftsmanship and engineering, it creates a quiet confidence you can sense the moment you take the helm. Palm Beach Motor Yachts, from ocean racing innovation to cruising perfection.
Wanna find your place, you got to leave your space. Cause that's the only way you're gonna elevate. Yeah, you gotta hold the line till it's showtime. Yeah, and just let your spirit shine. Well, sometimes there ain't no easy way to say all the things that we need to say. And we spend so much time looking for the easy road when all we need is right there in our soul. Say what good is life if all you do is hide? Oh yeah, you gotta shine your light for the world to see. And let everything be what it's gonna be. Yeah, listen to your voice and make up your choice. And just let your spirit shine. Well, sometimes there ain't no easy way to say all the things that we need to say. We spend so much time looking for the easy road when all we need is right there in our soul. You gotta let your, oh, you gotta let your, say you gotta let your, you gotta let your spirit, oh, you safe, and you can see it. It's easy for me to show, but sometimes I'm really brave, and that just means that I'll try again tomorrow. It's my doubt created mountains where the valleys used to be. Gotta change perspective if I really wanna see that sunrise over the water. I swam over and under, get lost in all the wonder, never call it quits, no. When life hit me apart, I went faster and farther. I just gotta remember I was made for this. Among the waves, let them take me as far as they want to go. And it's time for me to say, they won't break me, I'm braver than I know. It's my doubt created mountains where the valleys used to be. Gotta change perspective if I really wanna see it. Sunrise over the water, I swam over and under. Get lost in all the wonder, never call it quits, no. When life hit me harder, I went faster and farther. I just gotta remember I was made for this. Oh, such a time as this. Creating mountains where the valleys used to be. And all the things I thought I knew were changing like the seas. Yeah. But I've overcome it all and I'm still here. Oh, I gotta change perspectives if I really wanna see. Sunrise over the water, I swam over and under. Get lost in all the wonder, never call it quits, no. When life hit me harder, I went faster and farther. I just gotta remember I was made for this. Oh, such a time as this.
home, take me on a ride. I got a good feeling about the colors lighting up your eyes. Take me home, take me to the sky. I got a good feeling. Tell me the only thing you are is mine now. I got a good feeling. I got a good feeling. Good feeling. You wanna know is how to hold on to it every moment. Dive into it like my love is an ocean. It's overflowing. I swear it's golden. So good that I'm rolling. Baby, you make me crazy. I'm seeing roses. Baby, just maybe you save me. Oh, take me home, take me on a ride. I got a good feeling about the colors lighting up your eyes. Take me home, take me to the sky. I got a good feeling. Tell me the only thing you are is mine. Take me home, take me on a ride. I got a good feeling about the colors lighting up your eyes. Take me home, take me to the sky. I got a good feeling. Tell me the only thing you are is mine now. I got a good feeling. I got a good feeling. Good feeling. I got a good feeling. I got a good feeling. Good feeling. You wanna do is move with me, I'm seeing blue, yeah. In a disco-colored room, hearts are blooming. It's so consuming. Love what you're doing, so good that I'm doomed, yeah. Baby, you make me crazy. I'm seeing roses. Baby, just maybe you save me. Oh, take me home, take me on a ride. I got a good feeling about the colors lighting up your eyes. Take me home, take me to the sky. I got a good feeling. Tell me the only thing you are is mine now. I got a good feeling. I got a good feeling. Good feeling. I got a good feeling. I got a good feeling. Good feeling.
That's when we forget just who we are. Make us come together in the alright. That's when you remember who you are. Overthink tomorrow when we're alright. That's when we forget just who we are. Make us come together in the alright. That's when you remember who you are. Overthink tomorrow when we're alright. That's when we forget just who we are. Make us come together in the alright. That's when you remember who you are. Overthink tomorrow when we're alright. That's when we forget
Welcome back to Lanzarote then. The second race of the day, conditions much the same as in the previous race, which was a real big test, physical and mental for the fleet here. But Paprec, the French team, were still once again one step ahead of the fleet and extended their lead at the top of the regatta standings. This is the third regatta of the season. Sled have won both so far, but Paprec in the box seat for the moment after 3 races. And Robbie McCutcheon, they were just a step ahead of the fleet, weren't they? Were impeccable in their boat handling, good positioning off the start line. It was interesting to see their speed upwind. They seem to have speed upwind as well as downwind, Robbie.
Yeah, that's right, Andy. And they didn't totally outright win the start, but they definitely were in that top bunch, and they sort of just chipped their way on from there. You mentioned their boat speed, upwind and downwind is really nice, and they're executing all their manoeuvres, so they're definitely at the top of this fleet for a reason.
We saw them being relatively conservative in their boat handling, making sure that they didn't stress themselves, push themselves too hard through the jibes and attacks. Just once they'd got themselves a lead, they're able to just operate at 90%, as it were, through the manoeuvres to just make sure they didn't break anything. So that was one of the keys for Paprec so far.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely an emphasis on protecting the asset, protecting the gear, and after a bit of a short time now, they get to rehydrate and get the energy levels up to be able to do that for the second race.
But in the meantime, it was a much more difficult race for Sled, wasn't it, Katie? The first time we've seen them having a serious problem this season, losing the kite in the water as they approach the leeward mark, Katie.
Yeah, that was a big problem for them. I mean, I'm not surprised in these conditions. I kind of feel like it's probably going to happen at some point. Something is going to happen in conditions like this, in a venue like this. It's just, frustrating that it happened in a race where they were up there and pretty solid. But they did well to come back and kind of get a mid-fleet result, chipping away. And I think as we would kind of keep saying, every point is going to be so critical, especially with races like these and these conditions where things are going to go wrong, and you kind of need to bank as many points as you can and take as many places as you can, even when it does go wrong, because I think at the end of the week that's what it's really going to come down to. It's going to be such fine margins.
We've got just over a minute and a half to go. Paprec setting up early. They have Vayu to windward of them. Really the fleet starting to settle down into their positions for this start of race 4. We can see no way back, 2 boats down from the windward end, from the committee boat end of the line, as indeed Trinity Racing look like they're going for the committee boat end of the line. Platoon Aviation just trying to find their position. Robbie, what's your thoughts on the way the fleet are setting up, like where Paprec are at the moment? Just Crioula seem to like to start at the pin end. Paprec just pushing forward, protecting their position. Obviously Cedric Chateau, a match racing champion in his own right. This is a classic move, just protecting his position, giving himself runway to build speed into. This is looking quite nice if they can just time it perfectly, Robbie.
Yeah, that's right. It's not surprising to see all the boats sort of setting up back from the line, because in these windy, wavy conditions, it's really easy for you to lose your bow and you slip sideways really quickly. So if you're a wee bit further back, you can just maintain your speed a little bit easier, and you can just slowly crawl to the line, Andy.
Do we feel Paprec are a little bit exposed where they are? They've got a little bit of real estate to just lose speed and just scrub off a little bit of speed, but they're in a nice position for the moment. This is time on distance for the regatta leaders just now at 9 seconds. They're actually going to be okay. Just a few seconds. They're just going to get round that pin end mark and no more, but losing a little bit of speed, but they've got the position they want, Robbie, don't they? Yeah,
fortunately for them, they did have a bit of space down to that leeward end. You see how close that is between them and Platoon. They just managed to get over the top of Platoon and chewed up that space, and that chewed up the time for them, and they just managed to get around that pin.
So 2 boats over the line, 36 and 19, I believe. 19, of course, is Allegra, so they have to go back. But Platoon Aviation and Paprec getting away nicely. Paprec actually struggling just a little bit for power. They have Platoon Aviation just above them, Robbie. They're struggling a little bit for the moment. 46 bow number there is, of course, that Alpha Plus. They're getting away quite nicely. But it's all about building speed in these difficult conditions. You can't afford to be slowed the way that Paprec did through the start line. as soon as you bring the bow up, you're slamming into the waves, and it's hard to accelerate once again. I'm actually quite liking Alpha Plus's start, Katie, if you can see them.
Yeah, I think Alpha Plus did a really nice job. Kind of time and distance to the line was really good. I think that's what Paprec really struggled with. They were in a bit of a risky position, a little bit close to the line, and unfortunately they had to kind of do a big kind of shoot up and a big kill some speed before the start, which meant they were going slow at the gun, which I think is the difference here. I think you got Platoon, Alpha Plus, they had speed at the gun, so then they're going to be able to accelerate away from boats like Paprec, who even though they were on the line, they were going slowly. But yeah, we know they've got pace. Paprec got a tricky decision now whether they try and tack back through the fleet or take all the dirty air, or whether they try and hold in out on this left-hand side and then tack back above them. But yeah, Platoon looking nice for me, and as you say, Alpha Plus, really good start by them.
Crioula seems to get away from the middle of the line quite nicely. No way back. Have got a decent start. I was going to say for once, but they've struggled to get off the line in this regatta so far. But they've got themselves a platform to build from. But it's quite close. Two boats over the line. Then Alkedo and Allegra. Alkedo have been relatively good this regatta so far, but coming off the line in 11th. So just updating you very quickly on Gladiator. Gladiator won't be able to compete in the rest of the regatta. They have a broken forestay fitting, I think, isn't it, Robbie?
Yeah, that's right. We just saw them on the dock just earlier there. They've just tied off their kite halyard down onto the base of their bowsprit. So yeah, just an issue with their forestay, and yeah, they definitely won't be able to be out there now.
So anyway, Platoon Aviation looking quite good for me on this left side, just settling after their tack, accelerating, and they've got a nice lane where they are. Paprec, I think, will carry on out to the left just a little bit more. Well, they haven't actually. They ended up tacking a little bit earlier, so Platoon waited for Paprec and Vayu. So Paprec is slightly deeper than they would want to be for the meantime. Let's see whether the regatta leaders can muscle their way back from there. Sled, meantime, in fourth on the water early in this race 4. Privetza fifth. Sled have got something to build from there, Robbie, don't they?
Yeah, that's right. They had a nice start. It's sort of in that middle end of the line, and they sort of picked their time to go onto port tack, and you see them in a really nice lane heading out to that right-hand side. So same sort of strategy from the Sleden team.
That's right. We're just watching Paprec. Paprec just getting bounced about a little bit. They need to settle down with a lane. Johan Richomme there first on the rail. Everybody else coming out. Jean-Luc Petitjuganen there at the back of the boat, the owner. Got themselves right out to be the furthest left boat. Platoon Aviation in 7th for the moment. Vasco just keeping an eye on the boats to leeward.
The same sort of strategy for Platoon here. They sort of came off that pin end, and then they were the most furthest left boat. So same sort of strategy by Vasco and his team to sort of execute, and we saw them at the top end of that first beat in the first race. So it'll be interesting to see if they can do that again.
Katie, what's your feeling about the breeze and left or right side on this race?
I think it's going to be able to do the shift.
Sorry, Robbie, what do you think? We just lost Katie there momentarily.
Yeah, I think you know, the shifts, like Katie was just sort of saying there before we lost her, just the shifts. I mean, it's a little bit less shifty at the bottom of the course, like we know, and then further as you get to the top of the course there, it just gets a little bit more shifty. So, you know, I think these teams are sort of having the same game plan as they were, heading out to this left-hand side early, but then almost wanting to bank on the right-hand side at the top of the mark.
That's right. We saw that with Privetza and Platoon Aviation, particularly in the previous race. But the top mark first time up in the previous race was really shifty. The big shifts coming through with the gusts and squalls coming off the land, and so that has to be accounted for. On board briefly with Vayu, Dylan Whitcraft steering, and they have a fairly solid position, but really liking the way Alpha Plus are sailing this regatta so far. So much experience on board, and really stepped their level up this season. They've changed the keel fin, and they've a pretty decent position there. They've got Vayu just to weather on their hip, but Nick Eglock-Johnson doing a great job at the moment, just keeping it smooth, and he was talking the other day about how that was his objective, trying to stay smooth, not use too much helm movement, just keep for a high average speed. And Preveza just through the gap there in 6th. For me, the moment there's certainly no way back are in the mix alongside Trinity. These two boats started at the committee boat line, end of the line, Katie, didn't they? No way back, and Trinity started side by side.
Yeah, you had, I mean, the boats were all super spread out down the line. You had, the whole line was kind of being used, which I think shows to me that there's not a huge amount of bias. It's just about getting off the line clean, and I think the boats with the cleaner starts are going to really kind of see the rewards, because they're then able to sail their own race, make their own decisions. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see at this top whether going out, as kind of Robbie was saying, you get a bit of a right-hand wind bend as you get closer up to the windward mark, but then you've to be a real problem in the last race. Yeah, that became a real problem with underlaying, especially with the shifts, so I would expect to see a couple more manoeuvres still to come for the fleet up the top third of this beat.
For sure, for the moment, that left side just coming good for Platoon Aviation. Pat Breck actually taking a couple of positions on that left side, just watching how this race develops. I kind of like the Trinity Racing, Trinity and No Way Back position. Just sailing relatively conservative, but trying to get to that top right-hand side perhaps a little bit earlier, and not having to cross the fleet like Platoon will have to do. But Platoon Aviation leading as they did in the previous race at this point, Robbie.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, carbon copy of how they did it that first race, and they're doing a really nice job of just hanging in there. We see their lane now. It's just
interesting to watch. Their mainsail is panting a little bit more. They're not quite as tight on the sheet as you're seeing. A little bit more twist, I think, perhaps with Platoon Aviation compared to Alpha Plus to leeward.
Yeah, that's right. All the power that they're getting through the boat is generated through that jib, and then sort of that dirty air coming off the back of that jib is just sort of bubbling up that main sheet. And you mentioned about the twist. They're just really trying to exit all that power at the top of the sail, and you see that perfectly now here from Team Platoon.
Indeed, certainly they're going really well at the moment. Alpha Plus to leeward. Bit of a drag race for the moment. Then through the middle there, the bumblebee stripes of No Way Back. But positions changing all the time, Katie, at the moment. We saw No Way Back in terms of the tracker, how we had them in the top 2, top 3 a few minutes ago. Now they're down in 8th. But that's the way this upwind's shaping up, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, I think we're just starting to see some of those shifts coming into play, and I think we'll keep seeing that. It'll keep shifting back and forth, and I think the tracking will keep kind of changing who the winner is, and it's going to be which shift we get into at the top, and the teams are going to have to start making decisions on actually which shifts they start tacking on, and how they're all going to approach this ley line, because I think it's going to be a pretty tight and congested ley line. So they're going to have to be starting to have the conversation around how they want to approach that windward mark ley line, and kind of where they want to position themselves on the fleet.
Certainly Pat Breck putting their faith in the left for the moment, so too Platoon Aviation. Alpha Plus in the left sled, chipping away then as they always seem to do, getting themselves up to 3rd.
Yeah, it looks like they had a nice left-hand shift as they were crossing those boats from the right. So not only being on the right shift, but then also having the shift when you're crossing the boats is really important. Key part of the upwind, Andy, and a sled doing a really nice job. You see it on the 2D there, just really crossing over in the lefty, and then you can start to consolidate on that gain.
Indeed, so sled doing a nice job with that. Preveza too, to a certain extent. Meantime, think Teasing machine just a little bit close to Trinity Racing there. Trinity on starboard, Teasing machine seemed to be quite close on port. And behind them there, Alkedo Vitamina working hard to get up into the lee bow of Crioula. Now then, no way back, tacking back across on port. Should have just, actually they're going to be quite close with, I think, Trinity in the end having to tack back. Not sure whether they hadn't quite got the measure of that cross.
Yeah, you see the boats
that was quite close.
in the background there, Andy, just on a bit of a left-hand shift, so you see them just crossing over. We know Trinity came from the right-hand side, so potentially a bit of a left-hand shift, and it's really paying for those front boats in the background of your screen now.
Indeed, on board with the Trinity then, just potentially on the wrong side of that shift. Just now we're watching Paprec under the jib, as it were, of Trinity, and they seem to be coming across quite nicely. So although they didn't get the start that they really wanted, they lost out. Paprec just strengthening their position all the time. Although Sled, look at them, got out to the right side and bouncing back after that 6th place. But I think the shift is still with the left, Robbie, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just seeing Sled are just being bounced around just a little bit.
Yeah, it's a tough one for Sled. They were obviously gained from that left shift, but then they gained to ley line, so they have to put a tack in. And I think that's just opening the door for these other two boats, Platoon and Alpha Plus. I think they'll still have that shift as they come into this cross.
But as we get to the top of the triangle, as it were, to get to the windward mark, we know that it's going to get shiftier, and it's hard to predict exactly what phase we'll be in as they approach the windward mark. So, and of course it's so super close. Every boat length is so important. You can't afford to just be conservative. Watching here as Platoon will cross Vayu and Alpha Plus, I think. Platoon Aviation on port, elected to tack inside or underneath, but that's a difficult one for Platoon Aviation relative to the race leaders.
Yeah, interesting spot there for Platoon to tack in. I mean, you know, from the booth here and sort of from the studio we're looking at, you'd expect that they're potentially on ley line. Otherwise, it's a bit of a compromising position that
but
they
you don't want
in.
to have the same thing happen. You know, you would think maybe they would just have been a little bit more conservative and gone through or put some in the bank, knowing that it can be very dotty, very gusty and shifty at this top mark. But let's see, Katie, how are the ley lines looking generally? You know, for Sled, Platoon, Alpha Plus, Sled seem to be on ley line and, if anything, reasonably conservative.
Yeah, I think Sled at the moment to me look like they're on a pretty comfortable ley line. A lot of the fleet is kind of out more towards that right-hand side, so they are a bit further away from the mark than they were coming in last time. The last race we had a lot of boats coming in on that left-hand side, whereas I'd say now just over half the fleet is actually kind of racking up quite far away on that starboard ley line. But from where I'm sat, yeah, I think Platoon is on another quite squeaky ley line, I'd say. They're
I love that squeaky ley line.
Just feels a bit squeaky when you're trying to get to it.
Yeah.
But I think there is a bunch that are kind of potentially overlay. So I mean, overlay, I would say is also kind of a disadvantage. Although you are coming in with pace, so it depends whether Platoon can kind of get to the mark before they start to get affected by the breeze of the boats outside of them. But I really hope that they can make it round for this one, because to repeat the same mistake as last race would be incredibly painful.
It would be incredibly painful, but you know, it's almost the same level of risk. And say it's hard to sit here in the commentary booth and criticise or just wonder, but it'll be interesting to see if they can get round. It's very, very close with Sled. Sled, of course, will give nothing away, coming in with pace. Certainly Paprec have got a nice position, a little bit more conservative, just to windward, but it's going to be very close round this top mark. No room for error, no room for mistakes. And the breeze is fully in. Sled there just with probably the best position in terms of ley line. Good calls from Andrea Vicentini and the afterguard. Otherwise the boats to weather, just a little bit of a main sheet ease. Vayu coming in just behind Sled, but great shots there, Robbie, isn't it? The whole fleet converging on the windward mark.
Yeah, absolutely. All the bows pointing towards us, and then all trying to go as fast as they can towards this Mark 1, and you just saw the bows of those boats just a little bit overlaid, just a little bit faster. You see them there now, and it looks like Vayu have just picked up a little bit of a lane. If they can hold that in, which it looks like they can.
Looking a little bit better
nice
for Platoon Aviation this time. They're just trying to just... The main thing now is to keep a little bit of height, not point too much at the mark. Is maybe a little bit too late for that. Just in the end, I think probably Sled will just roll them momentarily, but in the end, then the main sheet goes off, the jib sheet goes off, and Platoon Aviation just slightly ahead. I would credit them with the lead round the top mark of race 4. So Platoon Aviation have managed to get round this time. Last time it was a big disaster for them. Sled round, I would say, in second, but it's only a matter of a metre or so. And in the end, Vayu, I think, round potentially in third. Alpha Plus in fourth. Fifth will be, I think, Paprec, with Crioula beside them. Or sorry, Prevetsa with them.
And as we look at these sets here on Platoon and Sled, it looked like Sled just had the jump on them, and it just meant that they could get a little bit inside Platoon. So a nice position there by Team Sled just to get the kite up faster and then just get on their inside. And you can see them just surfing the inside wake of Team Platoon there.
The set for Paprec is a little bit slower, but again, just keeping it conservative, but a great lineup in the wave train, as it were, coming down this first run race. Number 4 Platoon Aviation just riding that wave, trying to just break a little bit more to windward, get some separation and stop Sled getting down inside them just in terms of sheer boat speed. Meantime, Paprec and Prevetsa side by side. Paprec doing a great job of just same thing, trying to maximise speed, use the waves to best effect, use the gusts. It's all about setting up in anticipation. The strategist, whoever it is that's calling the breeze coming in, anticipating to be able to accelerate. And you see that with Paprec have just sailed about half a boat length clear of Prevetsa. Trinity Racing just behind them. Trinity in 7th place.
Great shots, Andy. Really nice to have the drones there, and the drone looking back towards the fleet. You can just see all the wake that they're producing, and the waves, you know, you can just tell the difference between the waves at the top and where they are in the middle of the downwind now, and you can just see them absolutely flying.
So Platoon Aviation making it sick this time, just using those waves, just Armula Spreer riding the surf coming downwind. These waves making a little bit of extra motive power, and Sled just trying to roll up onto Platoon Aviation's wind. Sled there going max speed. Vayu going well in third, Alpha Plus in fourth, Paprec in fifth. That would certainly even up the scores if we are to finish in these positions just now. But Platoon Aviation holding on nicely. Great boat handling, great control. You see how much they've taken out of Sled since that top mark. They certainly have a lead that they can should be able to extend with if they call the breeze right, use these gusts the best effect.
Yeah, that's right, Andy. I was going to say the same thing about how they've just, you know, extend that lead a little bit, and it makes their decision a little bit easier on when they jibe. Once they had Sled on them right on their hammer at the start of this downwind run, then it makes it a bit more difficult. So they've just irked out a bit more time and distance between them and the other boat, and I think it just makes this next jibe just that little bit easier.
Let's wait and see. So Sled trying to get down inside Platoon Aviation now. Platoon were protecting a little bit, sailing high, sailing a little bit hotter. That should be the opportunity for harm to come down in the as the next gust comes to them. Javier de la Plaza, the kite trimmer there, just behind Harm with his trucker's cap on that he loves so much. Gerd Harbermuller, the big grinder there, working to max power now on the forward pumps. So platoon lead the jibes. Sled go at the same time. Platoon actually probably a slightly better jibe. Just need to get the boat, keep the boat under control. Great thing for them is coming out of the jibe with the acceleration. You want to jibe either in the breeze or just as the gust is coming on, Robbie, don't you, rather than in a hole. And I think probably Jordi and Vasco called that one quite well.
Yeah, that's right, Andy. You want to be as fast as you can through the jibe, and also you can use the waves as well. So riding with the wave as you go through the jibe really helps. It just helps unload the boat and makes it easier for the exit, like you mentioned, Andy.
Vayu going quite well down this right side, just holding on a little bit longer. Here we see them bow number 27, the Whitcraft family team from Thailand.
These are really working hard today.
Indeed they are, but it's so close, so little in it. Patrick there just going fast again. Chasing Alpha Plus and Vayu, and Platoon Aviation have lost another kite. Unbelievable, they must be surely running out of kites. We've had the same thing happen once again. The kite is split into three parts.
Oh dear, that's not what you want to happen. Once again, yeah,
when they were
really
leading,
tough.
the same thing happened. That's tough, mentally tough, and really hard for them to deal with. They've done all the right things up the beat, and opening the door for Sled. Sled had a similar problem on the last race, opened the door for Paprec. And unfortunately, Platoon are getting this happening too many times for them, Katie, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's so frustrating for them to be kind of up there for both these races. They got up to the windward in a good position in the last race. Same with this one on the downwind, and it's so frustrating. And I think when things like that keep happening, it's really hard to kind of keep morale high, and it's really hard to keep just keep on going, because you kind of get to a point where you're like, oh, why does stuff keep happening? We've seen yesterday sorry, big wave. I'm just being showered right now. As we've seen kind of yesterday and today, there is plenty that goes on this race course, and there is big gaps that that turn up, and there is opportunities to take back places all the way up until the finish line. So it's very much not over for them. They just need to try and get a new kite in the sky, minimise these losses, and then crack on.
But this time the door opens for Sled, and they're up into the lead with Alpha Plus second, Vayu third. Paprec get past the stricken Platoon Aviation, and the blue kite getting closer, ever closer to the front of the fleet. There's the standings then. Evening out in this race, if the position stayed the same through the finish line, well, Paprec would be leading by just 2 points. Sled would be on 10, Alpha Plus on 15, and a bit of a gap then would open up into fourth place. Alpha Plus going really well, good consistent sailing so far. Alkedo Vitamina on 23, 25 for No Way Back Platoon Aviation. You know, it's very much what could have been for the German team. They've sailed their upwinds fantastically well, generally done well, but their kites letting them down. I think they've lost 4 kites over the first 2 days. Meantime, Sled just setting up for the drop, going for an early drop, nice and safe. Losing a little bit to the boat search, you're pushing harder. This Paprec going for the drop just seemed to get the kite in the water a little bit. Alpha Plus coming in with a later drop. They've caught right up to Sled. Sled will have the preferential inshore or inside boat positioning, so Sled will gain on the rounding. Alpha Plus go round in second. Paprick, I think, just taking a few moments to get the kite set away. Vayu going round the left-hand mark. Paprick settled, but there's still a little bit at 6s and 7s, just trying to get the sails in, get everybody on the rail. Next round is Prevetsa Crioula on the other mark. Trinity Racing once again having boat handling problems. I think it's their first time racing in this really big breeze consistently day after day. So a big learning curve for them. Meantime, No Way Back coming in to that left-hand mark, looking upwind. Alkedo coming into the right-hand mark.
Yeah, really tough drops and roundings for all these teams you saw.
That's a big move for No Way Back, coming into a big jibe and a drop.
Yeah, you see that main flapping there. That's just, you know, it's hard to prepare absolutely everything for the jibe and then the turn up as well. So totally fair enough in these top end conditions, but you can just see how difficult it is for all these crews.
But Alpha Plus have come out of that quite nicely, Katie, haven't they?
Yeah, I actually thought it was quite a brave decision to leave the drop so late in these conditions. I was kind of watching them and I was like, ooh.
Heart and mouth stuff, Katie, wasn't
quite
it?
brave, but yeah, exactly. That's you kind of really relying on the grinders to kind of just get the kite down the hatch. Like, it just needs to get in the boat.
When your grinders,
but yeah, they clearly, yeah.
When your grinders an America's Cup winner and a Finn Olympic medalist, then that's a big asset in that situation. And just in terms of the experience and running the things to the limit, then the experience on Alpha Plus is second to none, really. Anyway, Vayu going well at the moment.
Yeah,
they're up there in fourth. Carry on, Katie. Yes.
No, I was going to say, yeah, it really is, and I mean the confidence you have to have in these conditions to be pushing those drop times and pushing that. It really shows a lot of experience and a lot of confidence, and those are the places where you're going to make those gains and kind of take the gains on the boats around you. If you can keep pushing it, even up into the kind of like super windy, super tricky conditions, that's what kind of when you get the teams that are kind of like a step ahead, and you see the difference in the more experienced teams.
So Vayu in the match in fourth, the Prevetsa fifth. But once again, a big split. Not quite as big a range in this fleet between first and 12th as we saw in the previous race. But the boats at the back, Teasing Machine and Allegra, kind of losing touch with the fleet in some senses. But correspondingly, the good gap now between Alpha Plus and Paprick. So Paprick chipping away all the time. If they can have just one boat between them and Sled, that would really help their regatta lead, hopefully. But unfortunately, they're having to tack inside Vayu, Robbie.
Yeah, that's right. Vayu doing a good job of heading out to this left-hand side, and it sort of looks like they're in just a little bit of a shift. Paprick just got caught a little bit in the middle, so they had to do a couple tacks, whereas Vayu just did the one, and I think that's just been the difference.
So I think it's very much a case of picking a side on this racetrack, isn't it? And just trying to win your side, Katie, but the way things look, I don't think you can afford to try and go up the middle of the course and be conservative, can you?
No, I think the middle kind of works out quite well if you have enough of a lead to be able to kind of just stay and cut like loose cover the boats around you. So that's when the middle comes into play. I think if you're in the middle of the fleet, we saw it with Paprick, the first lap, the first upwind and this upwind, they're just being bounced around. And manoeuvres in this stuff are so tricky.
Exactly, yeah, that's the point.
And I think, you need to be kind of minimising manoeuvres. And I mean, the position where they tacked under Vayu, it was so critical that they got a good tack, because if you do a bad tack, crash into a wave, drop back, then Vayu's going to be affecting them all the way on this leg out to, or all the way on port. So manoeuvres become super critical, but they're also super hard. So I think now, if you're in the middle of the fleet, you just need to find yourself a lane and I think stay in it, and then just, keep those speed averages as high as you can.
So conversation on board Paprick, what do they want to do, Robbie? They don't think they want to live there for a long time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, as Katie mentioned, sort of that tack is a really critical point, and if they can hold that lane on the port, then they will stay in that. But if they are just starting to be effective, we see the 2D there. It looks to me like they just got a bit of leverage in between the two boats. So if they can live there, I think they just hold. Like I mentioned, they've done a couple
You're
maneuvers
just starting
already.
to see that now, aren't you? Just Patrick, just almost getting a bow in front of Vayu. Different generation of boats. Obviously, Vayu, 2016 boat, isn't it? Slightly narrower in the water line, good in the lighter breeze, but in an upwind like this against the Paprec. Platoon Aviation just to leeward as well. But the great thing for everyone is it's only 2:15 and we're on the second and final beat of the day.
Yeah, great news for everyone. These crews, especially a nice quick, time in between the first and second race, and they're definitely putting all their energy in so they can have a nice rest tonight, Andy.
Good rest and recovery. Sled then really going nicely. They've extended away a little bit from Alpha Plus.
Yeah, interesting to see that Alpha Plus is still hanging in there. They obviously rounded the same mark, and from my understanding, Alpha Plus haven't done any tack, so I think they've done a really good job of sort of living in a high mode and just building on that lane, and they're still in touch with the race leaders.
Indeed. We were just hearing, obviously, that they've changed their keel fin and things are... they're just learning the modes, so the real final percentages of the modes with their appendage change, but certainly seems to have worked for them. They're quick enough. Back on board Alkedo Vitamina. It's a tough day for them, having been over the start line, Robbie.
Yeah, that's right. They had to go back, and they've just been chipping their way through the fleet. They're up into 6th place from what I can see, so they've just chipped their way back into the fleet. But yeah, it doesn't help starting on the back foot like Alkedo Vitamina have done.
No way back. A little bit up and down in this race, Katie. Aren't no way back. They seem to have got themselves into reasonable position, then have problems or get bounced about.
Yeah, we've kind of seen that in the last regatta. I think they kind of seem to be, I don't think that inconsistent is the right word, but like in each race they kind of seem to be able to kind of jump up the leaderboard quite a few places and then drop down. So yeah, they're super up and down, but managing to get themselves back into the race is really a strength of theirs, I think. So yeah, just keep chipping away.
That's right, as Terry Hutchison says, but it's a very much a work in progress, learning a few more percentage points every day, carrying forward the learnings into the following day. That's the watchwords for the Quantum team, being better tomorrow than you were today, and that's what they're striving to do. Sled, meantime, looking really strong now with the lead and responding to Paprek's 2 race wins in a row. This would put them even in terms of race wins, I think. But let's have a look at the standings, hopefully the projected standings after 4 races. If position stayed the same, it would be really close at the top with Paprec on 8, Sled on 10, Alpha Plus on 15, Alkedo Vitamina 19, and then that gap back to no way back. But it's all to play for, really. We're on the second upwind, the second and final upwind of the day. Race number 4 in the Marina Rubicon 52 Super Series Sailing Week. Lanzarote really delivering in terms of the breeze, the winds that we came here for. And we're having great racing, really testing, really physical.
Be interesting to see, from my point of view, Andy, that Sled decided to tack over and sort of come more into the middle of the fleet. We see them set up for their tack now, but they just sort of consolidated on what they had, came in more into the middle of the fleet. We mentioned it before, that it's quite shifty at this top mark, so nice strategy and smart sailing from Francesco Bruni and Murray Jones just to keep their options open and, you know, be able to take these shifts when they come.
That's right, they're just getting themselves up to Alpha Plus there.
tacking there in the lee bow of Alpha Plus. Alpha Plus tacking away. Alpha Plus on starboard. But interesting that you would think they would try not to get too engaged with one another in this situation.
Yeah, that's right. Almost sled just bouncing Alpha Plus out to that right-hand ley line, so giving them a little less option as they go close to this top mark. And if sled keep continuing, then they're just, you know, over the top of Vayu and Patrick, and then they can sort of put on a controlling tack and go from there.
Indeed, they have a little bit of a lead, about 20 or 30 metres, but there's very, very little in it. Privet's are doing quite well on that. You know, again, same thing applies, picking a side and minimising your manoeuvres, working on your boat speed. That seems to be quite good for Privetza on that right side.
A really nice shot from the water there. You can see just how forward Alpha Plus are. So they're the furthest right-hand boat there. So it'd be interesting to see how they come back as they go through the attack now. You could probably expect if they're, you know, neck and neck with sled like they were just before, then sled will just put one in on their lee bow, but we'll see what happens.
But Katie, it's not getting any easier, is it? Just looking at Alpha Plus, how they come out of that tack. It's really tough physical work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super tough, and I mean, although the breeze is, or the water, sorry, is getting a little bit flatter as you go up the race course, the breeze is still very much in, and those gusts are still very much like super powerful. Like there's quite a big gust to lull ratio off the land, so that makes manoeuvres really hard because it changes it whether you're tacking into a gust, into a lull. You have to adapt a lot in conditions like these, and I think. Yeah, watching Sled and Alpha Plus, I mean, they've just done it again. Sled's just bounced Alpha Plus off of them. They're putting in a lot of extra manoeuvres compared to the rest of the fleet, which in these conditions is questionable. Like, as in, yeah, well, it's high risk, I think. So we'll have to see whether their lead to the rest of the pack gets a bit smaller, and maybe they open the door for some other boats to kind of get engaged and try and take the win off them.
The top two boats have a good cushion, 100 metres or so back to Vayu. Paprek chipping away in fourth, and they in turn, I mean, they look fairly solid in fourth, Robbie, don't they, Paprek, considering what they have to do, what's left in this race.
Yeah, that's right. They've done well to sort of hold that lane just underneath Vayu. We spoke about it earlier, and they've just done a good job of keeping that. And I know these tacks by the top two boats will just let them back in a little bit. And yeah, they've both Vayu and Paprek done a really nice job holding their lane on port tack.
Certainly, we may be in a little bit of a right phrase as we get towards the top mark. But I think that in general, all of these boats will want to be fairly conservative coming into the top mark. Nothing much to be gained in pushing the ley lines too hard, and a lot to be lost.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely a high-risk manoeuvre, and this next mark rounding will be another key point in the race to see how every team stacks up for the final downwind. But it's hard to pick a ley line from such far out. You know, we see Paprek and Vayu definitely down the right-hand side. It's just hard to, in these shifty conditions, really pick your ley line and make sure you've got it spot on. So, like you mentioned, just putting a bit in the bank before they tack.
Kenny, what's your thoughts on this, on the approach to the final windward mark of the day? It's a time for consolidation in some respects, isn't it? You don't want to be pushing the percentages unless there's a potential position gain.
Yeah, I think as Robbie was saying, that this ley line is super hard to call. I mean, all of the boats are really quite far away, and I think, yeah, that ley line's really hard to call. If you would probably want to go a little bit lower risk and maybe overlay, but with it being so shifty, a small overlay can very quickly turn into a massive overlay, which is then quite a big loss. But equally, underlaying is kind of the same thing. So I think you've kind of got to, well, as the kind of tacticians, strategists, they would have been looking at the breeze. They would have been trying to figure out maybe if there's any kind of patterns to the shifts or things like that. They'll be having discussions about that. But yeah, to me, it looks like the boats are pretty there's a bunch of boats that are kind of pretty overlaid, and then there's a bunch that are pretty tight on lay. so I guess it fully depends on this last shift into the upwind as to how these boats all come together.
Indeed, and of them all, Robbie, then Paprec furthest to the right are going to end up coming in with speed and a little bit more ease, but and potentially giving away real estate, giving away ground to the boats to their left. Principally Provezza we see coming up from the left, getting themselves up to third. The afterguard and Provezza here, of course, Nacho Postigo and new strategist is Nick Heiner. And the tactician Colle Parada doing a good job on this, certainly on this upwind, combining nicely. John Cutler, the helmsman, getting themselves up to third and actually making a nice game on Vayu. Paprec losing a couple of places, and Alkedo Vitamina, I mean, potentially up to fifth, Katie, as they come round this top mark. But it is a tough call, as you said.
Yeah, for me, Alkedo looking a little bit underlay at the moment with the wind that we have currently. I would potentially expect them to still have to do, two tacks. But I mean, we could very much see a big old shift that will let them in. But if they do have two tacks, I would imagine they'd leave it quite late, just to see kind of what the wind does, and then at the last minute, I'd imagine they would do a bit of a hitch up, try and find the gap to tack in. And then see where they can come in on the lay line. But yeah, the boats out on the starboard lay are coming in hot. They are overlay, fully powered up, absolutely sending it to this windward.
Indeed, Robbie. So even Sled leading the race looked quite comfortable on ley line.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely put a little bit in the bank, and as mentioned before, if it shifts a wee bit further to the right, then they are even more overlaid, and I think it just sort of opens the door for teams like Provezza and Alkedo Vitamina just to underlay, have a a clean run into this top mark, and the shifts will depend on how they get there.
It's hard to see Alkedo coming in from there, isn't it, relative to the boats on the right?
Yeah.
Even Provezza, it's a little bit. I think our tracker's a little bit hopeful in some respects, but let's wait and see how it plays out. Alkedo coming across on port.
But a nice strategy nonetheless from these teams, just to have a clear lane into the top marks. We mentioned about how far away they were when they tacked over, so picking the ley line is very difficult. So for some of these teams, just underlaying it, even if they do have to do another tack like we see Provezza doing now, they did have a clear lane the entire way into that top mark. So still great strategy from those teams.
I think so, yeah. We're just watching the Provezza either tacking it inside, which I think is going to be quite brave, all things considered, if they can come away with pace. Alkedo doing the same thing to Paprec, but Provezza will have the overlap there. Mark Krum at the top, getting round inside Vayu. So a nice gain to the Turkish team. So too for the Italians relative to the French. Cedric Chateau pulling the bow down as soon as he can to try and minimise the losses to the Italians. Paprec getting round in fifth, Alkedo probably sixth, but it's possibly closer than that. 2 seconds according to or 1 second according to our race timer, but potentially even closer than that. But no mistaking, the leaders are Sled winning or leading once again. This time no significant mechanical problems for them. They lost that kite on the towards the end of the first downwind in the previous race. 1-2-6 so far, heading for their second race win off the regatta, and that looks like a really comfortable lead in the end. Robbie, coming down this final run.
Yeah, really commanding lead by Team Sled, as we saw it. Quite a bit of distance between them and Vayu, Alpha Plus, excuse me. And yeah, they're absolutely flying out to this right-hand side, and they'll just be focusing on their boat handling coming down this final run, Andy.
A really close. Paprec just keeping it high, trying to take it to, I think it's Vayu just above them. Meantime, Alkedo jibe away. Platoon Aviation chasing hard from the back. But just watching Paprec trying to get up and over. Certainly Provezza losing out at the moment as they go into a jibe. And a slightly ropey jibe. They seem to be a little bit down speed.
Yeah, a bit of a carbon copy there. Patrick just rolling over Provezza, so Provezza happy to put a tack in, just to sort of jibe, excuse me, just to clear their air. And you can just see Patrick, they're always on the hunt, aren't they? If they're just a little bit behind a boat, they just sort of put a high mode in and just really try to hunt them down.
That's right. I think that's the match racer in Cedric Chateau. But certainly indicative of how they're always pushing, always on their game. They want to get through Provezza, get through Vayu. Just Vayu about a boat length and a half ahead. But it's going to be a great sprint finish between these two and potentially Alkedo. Alkedo jibed away, Katie, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean there was heaps going on at that windward in the first kind of third of this downwind. I think looking at because the boats were so overlay coming in, like Vayu and Paprec was so overlay on that starboard ley line, it really opened the door for the boats inside them, Provezza and Alkedo, to be able to kind of tack inside and get mark on that windward, or get route, sorry, on that windward mark. But then it meant that for the hoist, they were on the inside. So we saw Vayu hoisting just outside of Provezza and then ended up kind of taking their wind, which is what enabled Paprec to then also kind of roll over the top of Provezza. So it's all about positioning coming into that windward, and actually, yeah, even though the overlay is kind of potentially slower and it did open the door, it's still a gain when you get to that to the kind of the hoist, because you're going to be on the outside. But yeah, we've got a bit of a split fleet at the moment. You've got Provezza and Alkedo, who are the two teams that I would say like gained on that upwind at the top. They've both jibed out, and then Vayu and Paprec carrying on straight. I think for me, based on the last downwind, I think the single jibe, if you can nail that ley line, the single jibe and then coming in at the kind of the pin end of the line, that seemed to be a gain. I think Alkedo took a place last race just on the finish line by being able to just one jibe and coming in fast. I think the extra jibes can be costly, especially if you don't quite nail them. But yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to watch how Vayu and Paprec come against Alkedo and Provezza. Definitely one to watch.
But Alkedo Vitamina, the fastest boat coming down this final run. Great conditions still. So still sled would be leading, but it's going to be almost tied up once again, considering they both went on the water this morning with the points tied. This time the tie break would work in sled's favour, Robbie.
Yeah, that's right. If all things stayed the same, then Sled would have that tiebreaker, obviously winning the final race that they've done. But yeah, really, really tight at the top. And you also see Alpha Plus there really in the mix as well with only 15 points.
Indeed, not such a good day for some of the other teams. Trinity Aviation struggling. They've got into good positions in both races today and then losing Kite, so that's costing them. But, you know, Sled, Imperious so far. Paprec on the money almost all the time and certainly pushing hard. There we go, great aerial shot of the team on the Sled. Francesco Bruni at the back of the boat, the big grinders working hard. And it's a real strong team spirit on board. As we know, it's what works for them. Been through the wars, won world titles, won 2 world titles now together, won the circuit in 2021. That was a short season, but they won in the breeze in Palma in November when they lifted the world title and the circuit title at the same time.
It's pretty impressive. And you can definitely see all that experience and team cohesion we mentioned earlier come together now. And they're sailing really, really well. So they'll be impressed with another great day for them today.
Another great day, and you know, bouncing back after their one problem, they sorted out as quickly as possible, haven't let it affect them. But also a word for Alpha Plus. Alpha Plus, they're going very nicely just to windward. And the team that I say in terms of team cohesion, really a team spirit that's strengthening all the time. Interesting to just watch the little things that go on behind the scenes that really strengthen the bonds. You know, their big thing in Porto Cervo was this climbing the mountain every day, having coffee up on the high elevations behind Porto Cervo. A little fun thing, but it really built a little bit of, or strengthened the bonds. Been doing the same thing here, but also living through the disappointment of not winning, having gone into the final day in Porto Cervo. I think it increases the motivation, but the self-confidence is sky high, I think, on Alpha Plus.
Yeah, really cool to hear about their post-sailing activities, and you mentioned that it strengthens the team. I mean, these guys come in for 2 weeks at a time, you know, so getting on the same page and reacclimated is definitely a key point, and you can see it in their racing.
Let's just watch then as Alpha Plus, as Sled come through for their race win, and that will give them once again a share of the regatta lead, but the lead by virtue of the tie-break. Alpha Plus coming through for second place. Their second place of the day, Robbie, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. They'll be very, very happy with that. And I've been really impressed to see how they've been sailing. They've just been, you know, at the top the entire time and just chipping away. If people have, you know, make a few mistakes, then they're pouncing and sailing really, really well on Team Alpha Plus.
So they'll be the boat of the day in the end. Will the team from Hong Kong. Third and eighth on day one. 2 second places in these conditions is fantastic. And massive credit to Andrea Lacorte's team. Great fighting spirit. They were over the start line to get back to third. That's incredible, Robbie, isn't it? It just shows you. And Pat Prek in the end coming through. They're going to be super, super close between Vayu just completing the jibe. I think that Pat Prek should get through them. Vayu haven't managed to hold the speed through the jibe. And really, in the end, a great match racing finish for Pat Prek. Pat Prek keep the bow down and just goes through the finish line. They beat Vayu, then Platoon Aviation come through next, and then Pravetsa. But what a finish, and that was Pat Prek fighting to the end. Vayu just losing out finally by virtue of that final jibe, just not being able to keep the power on. Pat Prek just getting through the line. I mean, in terms of timing, you can see 1 minute 27 seconds for both of them, but that was a close finish. And then 3 seconds later, Platoon Aviation and Pravetsa super close as well, but places so close all the way through. Crioula coming through, then Trinity no way back. Pravetsa coming through, Trinity then no way back. No way back again. A little bit disappointing really for a team that've got such high credentials. Allegra, so too not quite able to impose themselves in these conditions. Then Crioula coming through next in 11th place.
Yeah, interesting to me, Andy, on that final downwind run. Alkedo, Vitamina and both Pravetsa both jibed off early, and they both went on the right-hand side of the downwind looking upwind, and it seemed to me like Alkedo gained a lot. However, Pravetsa potentially lost a bit of a place down there, so really interesting to see that.
Interesting, and Alkedo certainly came through the finish line with maximum speed, but really what a fantastic race for them all in all. You know, their performance, considering they were one of the teams which was over the start line early, really to get back to third in this fleet is absolutely awesome. And indicative of the level they're sailing at and the drive and the conviction. But so too Pat Prek getting that fourth place, getting through Vayu. You know, we started that run and you're just wondering whether they could do it. I had a suspicion that they just had the motivation, the momentum of the racing so far, that they were not going to give up anything, and they just held their nerve, got through Vayu on the finish line. And that will be a really, really important point. We'll get to the regatta standings in just a few seconds, hopefully. But another really tough, physical, adrenaline-pumping day, Katie, all the way through. And it's not even 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, the racing is so tight, even in these kind of really tough conditions. It literally never ceases to amaze me how you can do an hour race and then have 4 boats racked up at the finish line for basically a photo finish, regardless of the conditions. But yeah, it's, as you say, it's kind of only, it's not even 3 o'clock yet. Super efficient racing, like running the racing. The race committee has done an epic job of getting the racing in. Everyone's going to be absolutely knackered now, so I reckon it's going to be about getting in, recovering, refueling, and kind of getting ready for the same again tomorrow.
Indeed, Groundhog Day is how we started the day. Groundhog Day is how we will finish. But let's have a look at the standings after 4 races here at the Marina Rubicon 52 Super Series Sailing Week in Lanzarote. Paprec leading on by 2 points, then 2-1-1-4, that 4th place on the final run. Really proving critical. They end up 2 points clear of Sled. Sled second on 10 points. Alpha Plus on 15. Alkedo Vitamina on 16 with that 3rd place. No Way Back, 10 points back in 26 points. Platoon Aviation, 26 points. Allegra 31, 2 for Vayu. Preveza and Trinity Racing on 34 points each. 43 points for Crioula. Teasing Machine 46. And unfortunately Gladiator not able to race as of today with that technical breakdown. So big day here in Lanzarote. A big day tomorrow, Robbie and Katie, because tomorrow will be the theoretical midpoint of our season. And what have we taken away from the season so far? The sled really are the dominant force, and we'll have quite a comfortable lead this season, Robbie.
Yeah, that's right. They've definitely put their best foot forward in those first 2 events, and definitely putting their best foot forward in this one as well. So definitely leading the standard in terms of this fleet over the course of this year and over the season. And I think all the teams are just trying to raise their level as we get further on.
But Sled, I think, really sailing with confidence and momentum. They came here, although Don Cowie was saying that it's a great leveler to come here to a new venue. They came here knowing that they were fast and confident in the breeze. They've proven that so many times before, and obviously they have a great helmsman and a great afterguard, great boat handling. They've been through the wars with a couple of minor hiccups. I remember in Puerto Portals finishing on the final day after having their problems with their mast, and they finished. They dealt with that, and they still managed to win the regatta. So having that level of confidence, they are a real train with the momentum at the moment. Paprec, I think, good, doing well here. But in terms of the overall for the season, what else are we seeing in terms of the season, Katie? Who else is impressive? I think Alpha Plus are impressing me, and Alkedo Vitamina are both probably the 2 teams which are they're kind of rising stars, you would say, Katie, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I completely agree. Actually, I think Alpha Plus they're very much kind of on the up, and Alkedo, I mean, super impressive. Both the races today, they managed to gain a place on the last downwind, and like you can see that they're clearly fighting for every place. They're really upping their standards against the more experienced teams. But yeah, both Alpha Plus and Alkedo, if they continue on this trajectory, I think by the end of the season, they could very much be kind of trying to knock Sled off that top spot in the regattas, and then next season, who knows,
Who knows indeed, but it's the French and the Spanish in particular like to call it the equator tomorrow, the midpoint of the season of theoretically 50 races, but whatever this is would be the 2.5 regattas done as of tomorrow. Sled on 99 points as of today, 130 points for Alkedo Vitamina. Platoon Aviation on 130 on the same points. Alpha Plus on 137. Paprec 141, 147 for No Way Back. Trinity Racing 156. Preveza 161. Crioula, Vayu. But there's it's close all the way through the fleet. There's just 2 or 3 points between every placing down the standings. So it's going to be a battle tomorrow, I say, at the midpoint. Battle to the end of the season, but Sled are a class apart at the moment. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us here. Thanks, great work, Robbie and Katie. Join us again tomorrow at the 52 Super Series here in Lanzarote.
At Palm Beach Motor Yachts, we build for those who lead. This comes from our history in competitive ocean racing, where advanced technologies and a spirit to win shape our every advantage on the water. We carry those lessons into every motor yacht that we design and build, using efficient and balanced hulls to deliver performance that feels effortless. Paired with meticulous craftsmanship and engineering, it creates a quiet confidence you can sense the moment you take the helm. Palm Beach Motor Yachts, from ocean racing innovation to cruising perfection.